Welcome to the NFL Mike's Corner deep dive into the NFL draft. Myself and my friend here, Tony Tucker, who you guys have seen on the channel before, are going in on all the latest NFL draft news, rumors, everything that you can possibly think of, players that are going to get traded, all things NFL draft. And then we're going to be finishing off the show with our final submissions, our final picks, our final mock drafts. We're going to be picking all 32 picks throughout the entire draft at the end of the show. So stick around for that. Tony, how are you doing today? I love your setup. Are you a Chargers fan?
What gave it away? All of it. All of it's there. I love this time of year, right? Just got to watch the Masters, one of the best final Sundays ever. We got Easter coming up here. You know, like the NBA playoffs are kicking off, which is super fun as a Lakers fan to be able to be having some real hope this year. I got some aspirations there. But then the NFL draft, we get to see all of these teams find ways to make upgrades and, project things crazy for till football's played again in another 5 months. It's like we just make these crazy statements, which is the fun part about being a fan. So I'm excited for this.
Of course. And it's been probably a month or so since we got on the mics. So it's good to knock that rust off as well with you, Tony. Speaking of the Lakers, you can send the entire state of Minnesota, Oklahoma, even bring in Nicola. Lakers in 5, no matter what. Does not matter, Tony.
I'm for it. I have the Lakers winning this series in 6. I think we're going to get a couple of sensational Ant Edwards performances where he's going to, he might have a 50-piece, defensively if there's some things they can do there. I do think the Wolves are a good team that underachieved, but I'm still going to take the Lakers defense depth and figure it out. And they got LeBron James and Luka and Austin Reeves. It's a great team. It's a fun team.
Yeah, and they've got Luka, Don, and LeBron. Everyone's singing the songs lately. It's been a ton of fun. But this isn't an NBA show, so let's get into the NFL talk. I want to get us warmed up here, Tony, with some NFL news talk first, and the specific player that I wanted to talk about. And you can bring up any else that we need to cover before we move on to the NFL draft. Is Jalen Ramsey, which was someone whose name got thrown into the hat when we talk about the trade market and what players are still available this late in the offseason. I think Jalen Ramsey being put up for grabs, it is a good move by the Dolphins in a sense that they don't really have a perfect direction to go in right now. Like, why keep this 29, 30-year-old corner that still has some trade value on the roster, eating up as much cap as he is? It makes sense for the Dolphins to trade Jalen, but what teams do you think are interested in adding Jalen at his price tag? What is he even worth on the trade market? I don't think he's worth the first-round pick, right? No way. Second-round pick, third-round pick? I think that this trade is interesting and weird in a sense that I have no idea how to look at it for teams acquiring Ramsey. Are you just going to take the L in this deal to get Ramsey in?
So, first of all, I think the Dolphins are in one of those situations where everything's a huge mess. Because if we go back to the end of last year and the comments by McDaniel, he's talking about how guys on the roster, they don't even care about the fines. They're showing up late. No, they're not talking about the guys at the bottom of the roster, Mike. They're talking about the Tyreek Hills and the Jalen Ramseys and Armstead, these guys that they're not worried about losing $75,000. They're not worried about being cut because they're late. Now, I'm not saying that it is Jalen who's one of those guys, but you can already tell that the organization is having some trouble. They've got holes on the offensive line, and they've got holes on the defensive line, stuff like that. You think about getting rid of a player like Ramsey, but it's maybe you just need to get younger, more competitive guys that are going to buy in to everything and hope that the leaders that do stick around are setting the tone. As far as teams I think that would be interested, you got to think about the Bills looking to kind of make that jump. And it's probably for me, if I were the GM, comfortable with third, fourth round pick. Maybe if I give up a third, there is a swap in there where it's we'll give away a third, but we want back a fifth type of a situation. The Buccaneers, another team that I think the roster's really great. You wanna look there. Also, what about the Rams? Like, if you're saying like, hey, we are close, we have Stafford for a year or two, why don't you come back and see if we can repeat what we did a few years ago? And so I think there's those type of teams that I would, consider, where it's like he's going to go somewhere where they're going to contend. You're willing to give that situation up, and the Dolphins just need to kind of restart things here, because if they don't figure out something soon, like all of a sudden it starts to just tip in the wrong direction.
You've heard the teams that Ramsey's called out in, like, with his own words before, right? Like when he's been moving around the league before, been up for grabs before. His big teams were, one, he said that he wanted to be a Raider over the Rams when he left and ended up going to LA in the first place. And then two, in that process where he was getting traded from the Rams, he mentioned, he's like, I will not die until I play another football game with Derwin James and I'm on the field with 3 again. And it's almost like one way or another, at all costs, I'll play for free type of attitude to make it happen with Derwin at some point. I always thought it'd be super unrealistic that Jalen would ever be available to become a Charger. I always thought, like, oh, if anything, the Chargers are dumb enough to let Derwin James go to the Jaguars or the Rams. So maybe we're on that list, Tony. I mean, how would you feel about adding Jalen to the Bolts?
Oh, I would be very excited about it. I don't think that's necessarily the time where he doesn't play for anything. I do think he's going to maybe try to get one more bite at the apple, and he's deserving of it. He's still a very he's a great player that you'd want on your team. I would be excited if we saw a breaking news thing and it's like the Chargers are acquiring Jalen Ramsey. I'm like, there it is. Every time something like that happens, I love to just shout, Super Bowl, here we go.
Yeah.
Like you just start saying crazy stuff, because why not? I just think that he's going to want some sort of like contract extension or worked out where he is in the situation where he's getting some guaranteed money going into next season, wherever that next stop is. And I'm just not sure that the Chargers are in that headspace where that's what they're trying to do. Is say, hey,
They'd love to have him. Yeah. They'd love to have Ramsey on the team, but they're not really buyers, and they haven't been aggressive buyers on the market, except for very select players at very select positions, like Mekhi Becton. That wasn't even a big buy. I mean, you got a huge, like a massive team-friendly deal in that deal from a Super Bowl winning guard just a year ago. It just excites me, Tony, because when you look at like what Cam Hart, Tarheeb Still, Benjamin St. Juste, who we just brought in, these guys' potential, like where do we want them to go? What is the perfect career path? Where is their top peak level of play? I mean, it could be right in front of them at practice every day. That would be so exciting to see. Also, all the Chargers fans wanted number 5, right? They wanted T. Higgins. Let's just get it.
Yeah.
6'3", not 6'5", a couple inches shorter, plays the other side. He wears number 5. This still works.
All I got to do is put some tape over my Palmer jersey, and I get used to that right there.
Good luck to Palmer in Buffalo, by the way. That was one of the sneakiest signings of the offseason, for sure.
I have and will always root for that young man to succeed unless he's playing the Chargers. So, there you go. I hope he has he used to have some crazy games against the Chiefs. Now just go be the Chief killer in the playoff for Buffalo. That they've needed.
Keep doing it. I'd say the Bills should sign Asante Samuel Jr. also. Like, let's just keep. Basically, they could be our second team in case the Chargers don't make it all the way. Where it's just like it's the Chargers East.
Yep, you have Bosa, Asante, and Palmer. That's fun.
Yeah. We got a lot of crossover with the Bills throughout history. It's pretty interesting. But last thing on the Chargers here, because I know that we're Chargers fans. All the viewers might not be Chargers fans, but how do we perfect this roster before Brazil, the first game? Kickoff is coming. We got a draft. The Chargers still have a ton of cap space. Me personally, Tony, I think that the Chargers, obviously, they're going to keep adding depth to that D-line. And in this draft, we're going to see it, I believe, and maybe even in the first round. Chargers fans, get ready for that. I think they could use one wide receiver or two. I think they could use one DB or two. But when you look at the Chargers starting lineup right now, we're ready to go, Tony. We're ready to go. I feel good. I feel good about the roster today. How do you feel like we could perfect this thing?
I feel great about the roster because I think that he's building things the right way, right? So perfection is something that's unattainable, but he showed last year he's willing to continue that pursuit all the way up to like the post cuts when they trade for Molden and they bring in a more substantial backup in Heineke. I think those are the type of things that he's going to continue to do throughout this process. So, like on draft day, if the Eagles are trying to get rid of Goddard, and it's like, hey, we'll send you Goddard for a 4th or a 5th round pick or whatever, how he wants to move on, or Mark Andrews in that type of situation, making that move because they miss out on Colston Loveland and they miss out on somebody in the 2nd round, and they're like, hey, we want to have this for our offense. So I would say finding ways to add to being able to pressure with 5 players is the part where I would really attack. Like, can you go in there and find a young pass rusher in the interior of the defensive line and on the edge? Like, can you find a way to come out of the draft with a couple of explosive playmakers on the defensive line? Mm-hmm. If that's the case, like as so where last year they hit with Tarheeb Still, Cam Hart. Can you do that? I do think there's opportunities potentially for them to get some of the older veterans like at the trade deadline that they might be able to do. Cap space again can be opened up with the Rashawn Slater contract extension. That gives them more opportunities to move around there. But he's building the team in a way that I've kind of always hoped that the Chargers would, where it's like, we're going to focus on drafting really great players and having a really great coaching staff to bring those guys to a level that a lot of people maybe didn't predict that they could go, or, didn't even ever foresee them being that level of a player in the NFL.
Yeah, I like that you shouted out tight end especially. I think that's maybe the glaring position that all Chargers fans are looking at. We obviously all want one player to fall to us in this draft class. But yeah, I like that you shout that out. We're going to be looking for maybe one of those sneaky guys that are being floated around, Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, the names that are kind of being talked about a lot that could be traded for very cheap capital. And also, there's a lot of tight ends in the draft. They could just straight up draft a tight end, and I'll feel good in round 2, 3, 4, or 1, maybe spoilers for my mock draft. But I think that's a position that for this offense especially, I was surprised last year they weren't aggressive in acquiring, some kind of guy with potential to be a star in that spot. Maybe they're just kind of playing it safe, playing it slow. The opportunity didn't land in their lap, so they weren't reaching for it. But maybe this draft is the draft for the Chargers to do something there. Another position that you didn't mention that I'm excited about to see what they do. Who's going to be the other horse with Najee Harris? I'm completely fine with it being Kamani Vidal. I'm completely fine with us bringing back JK on a cheap 1-year deal if he doesn't get any kind of signing after the draft, and all those running backs that you've talked about settle a little bit and end up in their spots, and JK still is out there and available for us. Or the Chargers end up being the team that drafts one of those guys. Those two positions on the offense, I think, really perfect it. We get that solid starting tight end to go with Conklin and Will Dissly in our room, and then we get that running that two that exactly what we wanted JK and Gus to be for Najee. I think Najee can be a complete back, a workhorse back for us, but it probably would be wise for the Chargers to be targeting running back too still in this draft.
Absolutely. And for me, it's more of the explosive, the running backs. Like if you look at the way Baltimore's had the Justice Hill, or they got Keaton Mitchell, it's finding that player that's not necessarily going to be guaranteed 8 touches a game, but like we're going to have some design plays where they're going to get the ball in space 3 to 4 times a game, and they're going to be able to try to use their athleticism, their speed. There's a lot of those players that I really like that are going to be sort of day 3 type picks. Jaden Blue is one player that I think would be really fun in this offense, but he's not going to be a player that you're going to be relying on if there's an injury to all of a sudden be carrying the ball 13, 14 times a game.
Yeah.
But he is somebody on the offense, and maybe with the way that the kickoff is transitioning, you want a running back there in that spot, and maybe he goes back there to, kind of do some kick returning with the way that they're changing that now. So, Lakeem Allen is another player that I get really excited about the possibility of him being on this roster, because I think he's really good at catching the ball in the backfield, and he played with a quarterback who throws rocket balls. So we already know that he's going to be able to, make that transition to catching the rocket ball that our quarterback throws. So I think that's,
I think another guy that I've kind of keyed in on is Dylan Sampson. He's kind of like he's kind of like my sneaky running back of the year that I think could be somebody one day, or at least be a good compliment to our guy Najee. All right, enough of the Chargers talk. Chargers fans, please hop down in the section below. Who do you want to see us draft? And stick around. You got 2 Chargers fans who are probably going to give you 2 different picks in our mock drafts here in a little bit. I'm just guessing, Tony. You know that I'm not going to be super realistic with who the Chargers are going, what the Chargers are going to do. Before we get to that,
22.
Yeah, exactly. Falls all the way to 22. Never. He would never. I literally put the wasn't me trying to let people know in that video, this is a joke. This is not serious. I'm talking about maybe him hitting a gas mask before the game start or before the draft starts. He's not falling to the Chargers. Even if he does do that, if he goes full Laramie Tunsil, he's still going top 10 or top 12.
With all the AI stuff now, I will not be shocked if people just start if some of these GMs are like, "Hey, it's worth the 400,000, whatever it is," because the lost wages. It's like you make a guy fall, and it's like, well, if he falls far enough to us, we'll gladly pay the fine of $2 million. The lawsuit, if it ever gets traced back to us that we put out this fake AI video prospect we wanted.
You never know. You never know what might happen in the NFL draft, right before the NFL draft, right after the NFL draft. We also one time, the Chargers, I'm not even wearing a Chargers hat, drafted a quarterback at first overall and then traded him 5 minutes later. So that's happened as well. Anything can happen. But which news should we go to first here? Here, we'll go to Aaron Rodgers and get this out of the way. I got a clip here to play for you, Tony. I'm not sure if you've seen this yet, this story about Aaron Rodgers being told that he's no longer a Jet.
We start talking, he runs out of the room. I'm like, that's kind of strange. Then he comes back with the GM. So we sit down in the office. I think we're going to have this long conversation. I've flown across the country. And 20 seconds in, he goes, literally, I'm talking to the GM about something, and he leans to the edge of his seat and goes, "So do you want to play football?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm interested." And he said, "We're going a different direction at quarterback." And I said, and I was kind of shocked. Now, not shocked because I didn't think that was a possibility. Listen, of course, they want to move on. That's totally fine. But shocked because I just flew across country. You could have told me this on the phone. If we weren't even going to have a conversation, and this is verbatim exactly how it happened. So I said, "Huh?" And he goes, "We just want to know how you want it released, the messaging." And I said, verbatim, "I don't give a shit about the message." And I said, "Why?" And then he said, "I don't want to be up in front of the room saying something and have guys looking back at you."
Interesting.
And I said, "What does that even mean? Are you assuming that I would be in the back of the room during a team meeting undermining what you're saying?" I said, "You don't know me." And he said, "You don't know me." And then I said, "Exactly, which is why I flew across the country to have a face-to-face meeting with you to talk about my experience with the Jets and to hear your vision for the team." 20 seconds in. What I thought was going to be a couple-hour meeting turned into a 15-minute meeting, and I walked out of there. But
so at that moment,
that was a strange meeting for sure. There was no me pleading "Please have me on the team." No,
I don't know.
I don't want any part of that. It was already a debacle.
Anyways, you get the point. The meeting was awkward. Aaron Glenn basically didn't know how to break this news to Aaron Rodgers, is the read I get on this. But the internet is going crazy and cooking the Jets as they always cook the Jets and talking about what a shitty franchise they are and how maybe they could learn a thing or two from Aaron Rodgers. But I want to go the other side of this because I'm tired of getting burned by my Aaron Rodgers fandom. I've backed Aaron Rodgers basically my entire freaking life, Tony. And my question now at this point is basically why? Why? Why do you need to tell the story? Why does anyone need to know about your interactions with Aaron Glenn and the Jets on the way out the door? No one really needed this. It feels like Aaron Rodgers always, at every stop that he's had, he said he doesn't care what people think, but at the same time has tried to put some kind of grip or some kind of narrative or some kind of spin on everything he's ever done. We can just keep these stories private. We don't need to hear about this meeting. There was no reason for this meeting or this story to be revealed on the Pat McAfee show, other than Rodgers wants to make the Jets look dumb for letting the Hall of Famer go. And not only did they let him go, they also, flipped him off on the way out. That's basically why else are you telling the story?
So he's really smart and really savvy and understands everything that he's doing all the time, right? He's very calculated with that. Here's the way that I look at this is it's if he is going to get cut, he wants to be able to control the narrative in some way because he's basically just been fired. And when you are a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt about it, top 5 for a lot of people to ever play the position, he wants to have some say in how this actually went down. And what that interaction that he's describing is exactly why they wanted to move on. Because they don't want this in the middle of the season and things are going bad to him to be doing a guest appearance on a show like the McAfee show. And then things like this are happening. They want to try to create a normal football condition, which is already so tough in a place like New York. So now it's you're proving their point by going on here and talking about a closed door meeting. This is what they don't want to have. And I'm trying to think of, I think it was Hard Knocks the first year. He's in the back of the room and they have a guest, one of those Oz, the mentalist guy. And he's in the back of the room there. So it's not like you don't ever sit in the back of meetings or anything like that. He knows that he has to compete with the attention of the star quarterback. And he wants the Justin Fields type guy that is going to be hey, I'm in the front row. I'm here. I'm taking notes on all this stuff. I'm engaged on what the messaging is. And the ultimate, Mike, I text this to you after I watched some of the clips from this thing. The ultimate thing that has to happen is they need to hit on Justin Fields. If Justin Fields can be a top 12-ish, 15-ish quarterback, and he can have some consistency where he's winning more games than he's losing, the Jets are going to be just fine. They're going to be better than they've ever been. If he has more of those high moments that he had when he was with Chicago than the low moments he had when he was there, they'll be just fine. They'll look like geniuses for signing him to this contract if he comes out there and is rushing for 1,000 yards, not turning the ball over, playing like he was at the beginning of the season last year for Pittsburgh. If it's that quarterback, the Jets will be in the playoff conversation come December if that's the Justin Fields they're getting.
Yeah, and they're sitting pretty in the draft, too. They're in a good spot, man. They're going to have some options to either really add to their defense or add a star player to their offense. They're in a good spot in the draft. Yeah, it's interesting. And I think maybe Aaron Glenn could have just brought up one example. Robert Saleh. Just been did you not see what happened with that guy, Rodgers? Did you not see what happened to him? Promising young coach, up and coming. Everyone talking about the Jets defense and how if they can figure out the offensive side of the ball, the Jets defense is really good already. Do you think it just became really good overnight? No, they had someone build the damn thing, and he got sent packing immediately within weeks of Rodgers being on the team, in the facility, and into a season. So, of course, Aaron Glenn is going to be worried about that happening to him, a young defensive coordinator who flipped a defense in the place he was at before and got the job. Of course, he's going to be worried about the exact same thing happening to him. Also, with the whole I don't care. He said straight up, I don't care what the narrative is about me being cut. But at the same time, like you're saying, he's taking action to control the narrative. While he says in your face to the camera, look straight at it, it says, I don't care about the narrative. But here's this private meeting and how it went down between Aaron Glenn that the Jets never planned on talking about. It's what? What are we talking about? You just said two opposite things to the camera, sir.
So in defense of Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he liked some of the messaging coming out where it sounded like he was begging the Jets to play there.
Yeah, but he's got to stop saying that he doesn't care about the messaging then. He's got to say he does care about the messaging, and they were wrong.
Yeah, but if he didn't care, he would just retire and he would just go away, and he wouldn't even be doing any of this.
He's only playing still to kind of like not go out on that, right?
I'm kind of after this, like, I'm not sure that he's playing football anymore. I think he's...
That's what I was going to ask next. Like, what are his options here? His options seem like it's Steelers, Vikings, or retirement. He's waiting on the Vikings to decide if they're rolling with JJ right now, if they want to wait one more year. And if they decide to go with JJ, he's probably going to go to the Steelers or retire. But if the Steelers, let's say, draft Shedeur Sanders, or I don't know if that's going to affect their in or out on Aaron Rodgers. Let's say the Steelers QB situation closes, the Vikings closes, all that leaves is retirement.
So I think there was another comment in there I saw where he's like, "Oh, I would play for $10 million." I think that number is more so for the Vikings than it is for the Steelers. Yeah, I think that $10 million is I would play for $10 million for the Vikings. The Steelers situation to me is like he's earned this right. This is the thing that I don't like about what we do, is that he's played 20-something years, and the Steelers need him more than he needs them right now. He doesn't need to prove anything else. He's already multiple-time MVP, won all these games, has all these records. Like, if the guy wants to take time, and I hate the fact that I'm like defending Aaron Rodgers in this moment, like, let him sit around and wait for however long that he decides that it is that he wants to play. Now, you can say, well, that's kind of, he's not committed to the team. He's not all in. He's not doing this stuff or whatever. But we've seen other quarterbacks that are like this that will still have a great effect on the team, because I do think that once he's in and decided, his conviction level is to, I'm out here because I want to be great. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm committed to this thing. So I think that he's allowing the Steelers to go into the draft, and if they decide we want Shedeur, then I think he's just like, yeah, I'm not playing for the Steelers this year. And that's the part where it's at, where it's like, if you're drafting a quarterback, then I'm not coming in to deal with having a first-round rookie sitting behind me when I'm going into a new offense and I'm already going to have to make concessions about the certain ways the offense operates. I just don't see him being like, yeah, I'm going to go to a new situation and have to deal with this. Oh, I don't think he'd be bad to Shedeur. Like, I don't think he'd be mean, because he already knows what that feels like with the way he felt like Favre treated him. And reportedly that was the truth, that it wasn't a great situation. But he was, by all the things that I've seen, really great to Jordan Love. Like, he was really great to Zach Wilson. Like, he's not threatened by those guys. But does he want to do that in year, 21? Or I don't even know what year it is for him. Like, I don't think that he wants to do that in a new stop. So if the Steelers draft defensively, then I see Rodgers saying, yeah, I'm going to go play for the Steelers this year. If they draft Shedeur, I think he's just like, I'll just see what happens. Maybe there's an injury, or maybe I just go and read books and walk on the beach and explore the world and do podcasts, whatever it is.
Yeah, he could do like a podcast just basically like every week where he just complains about how he could do better than all these guys. You know what I mean? And how he should be in the league and all this stuff. That would be perfect.
We'd watch it too.
I'll watch it. Yeah, I'll watch it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying every person watching this video would, but you would see the clips. They would be brought up on NFL, Good Morning Football and ESPN.
I have a feeling that when Rodgers starts a podcast, it's not going to be about football. That's what I have a feeling. It's going to be about anything but football, maybe. It might rarely be brought up that he was a football player.
He's still so tied to football. The best ways to get his podcast traction will be to talk about football still.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. I think that he wants to play for the Vikings. He wants to just go into a situation where he can immediately compete for a Super Bowl. It's a the Vikings are in a situation where they can just kind of like 1 year it to Hail Mary shot, try and go for it. I also think that the Steelers, not necessarily that they're in need of a leader, because they have Mike Tomlin, they have Cam Hayward, they have TJ Watt, they have guys there that are, quote unquote leaders. But I feel like the Vikings They need someone to come in and play good quarterback like Sam Darnold did. They don't need him to do anything else but just sling the ball around. The Steelers do need like someone to orchestrate the offense, kind of take a reign of everything. The Vikings already had that all under control. This is a plug-and-play situation. Plug in a Hall of Fame quarterback with a bunch of freaking star-studded weapons and a Hall of Fame wide receiver, maybe the best we've seen of this generation. It could be special, and I think you're right. I think he's waiting on that situation. The Steelers thing is a backup plan, and he'll burn either one of them in half a second. And like you said, he has the right to because he's Aaron Rodgers. I hate it to see guys' careers go down like this, though, Tony, where they're bouncing from team to team. I'm just used to, as a kid, like these guys play for one team, and then that one team runs them into the ground, and then they're out. You know what I mean? And now all these guys, like, once you get past your first contract, it's almost like every player goes to a new team.
If you really think about it, Mike, that's not how the NFL has historically worked, right? Like, and
especially the quarterbacks, the quarterback position specifically. Like, I'm used to having half the league, those quarterback spots to be steady. Like, even like the worst of the worst franchise quarterbacks, like your Andy Daltons, like these guys were just there. They were firmly planted in their spot. Derek Carr was a Raider forever. You can even talk about guys like Joe Flacco, who won the Super Bowl, of course, but then was a Raven for forever after that. I was more used to that as a kid, and now it feels like there's 5 solid starting quarterbacks that no one's moving, and 25 spots that are fluxing.
So when I was a kid, Joe Montana ended up on the Chiefs, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, this guy couldn't stop winning Super Bowls for this team, and now he's not on the team. If Joe Montana could go somewhere else, everybody was up for debate, right? And then it just continued that way to happen. So, like, Tom Brady doesn't finish his career there. Like, Lamar Jackson likely will not play his last down for the Baltimore Ravens, and it will be exciting. I want to go on record as saying I would like Aaron Rodgers to be in the NFL next year. It is more entertainment and excitement for us than it is for him not to be in the league. So, I mean,
I'd rather have him starting than Daniel Jones, that's for sure.
1,000%.
Yeah.
But who's to say that the Colts aren't in a situation where they get 5-6 weeks into camp and they're looking around each other going, what are we doing? We cannot go into the season with this as our quarterback duo. Phone call.
You want a team that'll give you $50 million for 1 year.
Yeah, the phone one.
That's the one.
The Browns, depending on what they decide to do, they might look around and go, this can't be a situation for us here. Like, he might get that situation. And again, the injury. I don't think there's any reason that he needs to decide what he wants to do before the draft happens. He's too calculated, like I said at the beginning, to do something like that.
Yeah. We'll see how it all goes down with Aaron Rodgers. Again, let us know in the comment section what you think. Is one of your teams targeting Aaron Rodgers? Do you want Aaron Rodgers if you're a fan of the Vikings or Steelers or whatever team, or don't you want him? Let us know in the comment section below. One player that I would love to leave their team, Tony, is Patrick Mahomes. I would love for him to leave today. Actually retire. Don't even go to another team. You already did enough. My pitch to Mahomes, Tony, was if you really want to be the GOAT, right, do something that Michael Jordan couldn't do. If Michael Jordan goes and has a Bo Jackson-like baseball career and just starts hitting home runs out of the park, that's going to boost his credibility over LeBron in the GOAT debate as a basketball player too, right? No one's ever done it. Brady didn't go and start playing baseball. So if Patrick Mahomes goes and plays baseball or cricket or any other professional sport and dominates it, wins 3 championships in a row, he can retire the GOAT of everything and not just be the GOAT of football. But anyways, Skip thinks and hates Patrick Mahomes also. There was a clip, Tony, where Skip took on 20 fans. I just wanted to see your reaction to this clip, which is just the Patrick Mahomes segment. But just imagine him doing this for all of Skip's most controversial topics, including NBA topics, for an hour and a half straight. That's basically what this show was.
Patrick Mahomes is dramatically overrated.
Oh, sorry, boys. Give me 30 seconds and give me how he's overrated with those parameters, because I can't go off just that.
I only need 2 seconds.
Okay.
Tom Brady.
Okay. So the same. So
Period.
the same guy.
Over.
So the same
Over.
guy in the 2010 wild card at home in Gillette, the house Brady built, got blown out by Joe Flacco, 33-14. He threw for, in Skip's terms, a grand total of 152 yards and 3 interceptions, and got punked by Joe Flacco. That guy.
No, the guy who went to 10 Super Bowls and won 7.
And got outplayed by Eli Manning and twice.
And Bill Belichick cost him 2 Super Bowls.
He also won him 3.
Okay.
Tom Brady has never won a Super Bowl without a top 10 defense. Ever. Period. End of conversation. Pro Football Reference. Look it up.
Okay. So, but this is about Patrick Mahomes, and I think you're ducking and dodging the issue.
What are you talking
because
about?
You got to defend his Super Bowl performances.
If you want me to say, okay,
because
Super
I don't
Bowl
think you can.
How can you bomb a wild card game at home in Gillette and then say, oh, you made the most important game of the year and didn't play your best? This is bizarre to me. It will never make sense. No,
you know
real fast. Let me make this
right?
real fast. Greatest stadium in the world, 142.2 decibels, baby.
Do you remember
this
the
is
2018 AFC Championship game
where Patrick never touched the ball, and the Chiefs wanted the rules changed. They didn't do it, but they did it for the Buffalo Bills.
Do you remember what Tom Brady did in your house? He did 3 times in a row. He faced 3rd and 10. 3 3rd and 10s in a row.
You're right.
He goes, Edelman, Gronk, ball game.
The same way Patrick Mahomes in Super Bowl 58, down 3 points in overtime, 2 fourth downs, a 2nd and 14, because Marquez Valdez-Scantling forgot which way the end zone was and ran backwards, and he converted, and he hit who in the end zone? McCole Hardman for a touchdown back-to-back. Now, let me ask you this.
That was his one and only great Super Bowl.
It was unbelievable. All-time clutch. Also about this, since 2001, there has been 125 NFL playoff drives where the score was 7 points or less in the fourth quarter or in overtime. The rate of success of that is 40%.
Okay.
Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr., as you like to put it, went 5 for 11 in that situation, which is 46%. That's pretty dang good. That's not bad. Okay. Patrick Mahomes went 7 for 7. What do you think of that one, Skip? Tell me. Come on, buddy. Shout out Shannon Sharp.
Let's get to the fact.
But anyways, it was a fun show, honestly, because we all know Skip for dying on whatever hills that he wants to die on. Before we get into the talk about Patrick Mahomes versus Brady, because what's crazy about these GOAT debates that we go into with LeBron, MJ, and all this stuff is you have to discredit the second best player of all time to boost who you think is the first best player of all time. Like, we aren't talking about first and second here. And then the second thing is, Tony, how do you think that I would fare 20 Raider fans versus 1 Raider hater in this? Like, you think I'll be able to take them all on?
I do, but I think you'd have to have like a controlled professional environment. I'm not sure you're going to be able to find 20 Raiders fans to be able to do that. Then you're also going to need security, because like all of the arguments would be in your favor.
And metal detectors
in that, right? Where it's like, yeah, you're going to need some
metal detectors,
some former offensive linemen from the Big Ten, a couple of guys who, couldn't quite even hack it in the UFL, but they're 6'6", 320 and can give you some protection there.
I think it would be very exposing also, Tony, because each person just comes up like, this is how it would go, right? Pretend like you're me, you're the Charger fan taking on the Raider haters, and I'm the Raider fan, right? 0 rings. 0 rings. No, you don't have any rings. You don't have any rings. All right, that guy's out. Next guy. Bet the Chargers haven't won a Super Bowl. Bet the Chargers haven't. Oh, come talk to me when you got some rings, all right? Come talk. And they start chugging their beer. But
and it's funny too, because the person sitting in that seat was not alive for any of those Super Bowls. But yeah,
also like every person, every Raiders fan, by the way. So you guys better be ready if you ever see me in person at the Raiders Chargers game next year. They come up to me and start talking trash about the Chargers not having any rings. I tell them to name 5 players that were on the Raiders the last time they won a ring, and they can't name a single one. Y'all can't say Marcus Allen. Get the fuck out of my face, then.
You have to go back to like, so there's my brother's side of the family, an in-law there, he's a Raiders fan, and he's in his 50s. He lives and dies with the Raiders. But he was alive back in the day and saw all those teams. He can name those teams, and he'll talk so poetically about how they were. Whenever I talk to Raiders fans now, they talk about the Super Bowls as just a thing that they won.
They don't talk about the O-line or Flores or Madden or any of that history, any of it.
They can't recall a game, a moment, any like that. Just does, to me, it's like it doesn't mean as much. So I don't really care. I tend not to engage in these kind of debates, anyways. Like it's pointless.
Me neither. I never ever.
Yeah,
I'm never ever arguing with anybody, especially Raiders fans. That's not my thing.
The greatest of all time debates is like what Skip has kind of always hung his head on. Like before we were talking, when you told me you were going to have something like this, and I have not seen this, I will not watch this. Skip used to do the same thing with Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. He always finds a way to have these things where no matter what, like you said, you're taking a stance and you have to discredit somebody who is one of the greatest of all time to compete, and you have to find ways to knock them down. Yeah. It's like, I don't like Patrick Mahomes at all, but is he in a conversation for what he's done in the first 7 or 8 years of his career on par with what Tom Brady did? No question about it. Like what we've seen from the Chiefs and what he's done, that run to the Super Bowl where they were down 10 points in every game is one of the greatest things that I've ever seen as a sports fan. It was insane to watch that. And in that run too, I remember thinking like, good for Andy Reid. I'm happy for it. Like Andy Reid's one of those guys like who's been a coach that has deserved to have this type of moment run. By the end of year 2, I was pretty sick of it. I'm pretty sick of it now. I'm done with the Chiefs. I hope that they stop winning, in perpetuity. But like to sit down and have these arguments with whatever it is, it's like in my mind, Tom Brady's the greatest to ever do it. Is there a chance that I could someday say Patrick Mahomes is the best to ever do it? Yeah, there's a path to that outcome for sure.
I think him being on the Chiefs burned all those paths for me, Tony. Unfortunately, I can just admit that I'm too biased to ever put Patrick Mahomes at number 1. But you're completely right about Skip there, because the way that debate ends is Skip basically says that Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the league right now. Like, I don't even know if I'm putting it, like, I'm probably putting Josh Allen into this conversation versus Patrick Mahomes before Burrow.
Me too.
100%. Okay. Skip also said that Magic Johnson is the greatest Laker of all time, and it's not close. And I don't even know how you're just going to disrespect the dead like that. And then also said in there that LeBron and MJ's debate is not close. It's just like, so you're exactly right on Skip pushing the button and then just being like, I'm not taking my finger off of this. This is going to be my opinion until the end.
Well, because he always does these things where he's like, let me use logic on you. And then somebody will out-logic him. And then he's like, but that's not what we're talking. It's like, no, this is exactly what we're talking about. Shannon used to destroy him in some of these debates. And then Shannon would use actual personal life experience. And then Skip would attack him for that. And it's like, this is why this doesn't work when you have all-time great athlete arguing with this guy. But when you just have regular fan arguing with, regular fan as Skip and this guy, it's like, now you really can just see, like, this is how it works. Like, you both are arguing your points and are going to put together whatever you think is the best debate to prove your point. And this is what I always tell my son, don't argue with it. Once you think this player is the best player, whatever it is, like, if my son was like, wanted to say something crazy where he's like, I think LaMelo Ball is the best player in the NBA, I'd be like, all right, you're wrong in my estimation, but like, who gives a shit? Like, have it be your opinion. Try to have some facts to support it. That would be a pretty tough opinion. It was kind of wild, the one that I gave, but like, who cares? Like, just move on. Don't argue. Well, do not engage these people.
He's perfected. No, don't listen to Tony. Engage these people, everybody. But Skip has perfected, and I'm trying to perfect it myself too. If anything, he has perfected like that beat, right? You're just constantly just going at the beat of the NFL drum, right? As a journalist, he just never stops. His finger is always on that pulse, and I just want to do that. That's my goal. I don't care if I suck and I get 0 views in every video, as long as I can just be as consistent in my life as a journalist as Skip Bayless is. I'm just as much a journalist as Skip Bayless, Tony, at this point.
At this point, yes.
So if I can just keep up that pace, I will say that is the one thing I do respect about Skip Bayless the most. Like, he is always on my feed, even though he doesn't have a show anymore. I don't even know how he does it at this point.
Well, so he's, like I said, created this this ability to just find a way to irritate people, but he does it in a way that seems very authentic. He digs in and he does not argue for things that he doesn't really believe in, even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else, or like around them. Like, it doesn't matter. No matter what fact you give him, you're always wrong, and that's what people want. So you're not really having an argument or a debate or anything, because neither mind is going to be changed.
Is there any off the wall takes that you can remember in your life, or thoughts or feelings about a player that you've had like that, where you're like, I don't care if I get proven wrong by facts, I'm still standing on this? Mine is that Odell Beckham Jr. is the greatest rookie receiver of all time.
Yeah, see, again, but that's one of those things where it's like, I'm okay with that argument. I think Randy Moss was.
Everyone's going to say Randy Moss or Jefferson, all right? The new age kids are going to say Jefferson. Everyone else is going to say Moss. But Odell put up the same numbers as those guys in 12 games that year. I feel like that's the best rookie season we've ever seen from a wide receiver.
Yeah, but again, like, nobody ever argues for like O.J. Simpson's 2,000-yard season in 14 games or whatever it is. So I think
you have a take like that, I should say, is really what I'm trying to ask here. Or something from your past that you can like pick out and remember. Like, oh, I remember standing on this one point that I wouldn't let go.
I had some pretty crazy Favre arguments back in the day, just because of the way it shook out. Like, for people who don't know this, where I grew up, and I'm old, and I grew up as a Packers fan. And the Aaron Rodgers situation, I stopped being a Packers fan. I was very upset when they traded Brett Favre, and I never was a Packers fan again. But my thing was always with Favre was like the Holmgren situation, leaving. Like, I thought that cut out an opportunity for that organization to really win a few more Super Bowls in that time and where they were at. And I used to argue that to no end. And then the older I got and the more I watched Tom Brady play, I was like, well, I'll never be able to like continue down this road or these arguments. But like, no, not really. I don't lean in hard enough on any one topic where I would ever sort of fall in line with Skip, where it's like this. Maybe if I knew enough people to argue about hockey, I would just be like, nobody's ever convinced me that that anybody's better than Wayne.
Oh, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started, Tony. People are going to start coming for you on this Alex Ovechkin thing. People are going to start coming. I'll just say that they're going to start saying it.
It's fine, the younger generation, but like, because I was always
honestly, I just wanted some brownie points with the hockey fans to shout out Alex. That's all.
Yeah, when I was younger, as a kid, like, I was always a bigger fan of Mario Lemieux. Like, he was one of my favorite hockey players, and I am a former hockey player. He was one of my favorites, but I still understood that like what Wayne Gretzky did on a nightly basis was absurd. The numbers, the statistics that he put up were just insane.
All right, back to football, Tony. I don't even know who you're talking about. See, that's where my hockey points go away. Just like that. I got them, and they take them right away.
Yeah.
Next topic I had on here, Tony, for us to talk about. This could be quick. This could be brief. I just wanted to get your reaction to these numbers that I ran for a TikTok that I'm working on, which will be released. So if you guys are watching this, you're getting early numbers here. You don't even have to watch the video. You should still, though. Just saying. But I did a study. I went back and I looked at every single team first round history, every single pick since the start of their franchises. And I basically said all of the players, it's the first round, right? If you get drafted in the first round, in order to be a success, to me, I put the qualifier as 3 Pro Bowls or 2 All-Pros. So basically, I just took out all those guys that had one crazy good season, were an All-Pro, and then phased out. Eliminate all of them with that. So that's basically the criteria I used. 2 All-Pros or 3 Pro Bowls. to be a hit in the first round to get a percentage for every team, all 32. I have the list right in front of me. I want to ask you, Tony, you've seen how many drafts now in your life? 30 of them? Like, how many have you watched? Basically all the ones they've been broadcasting. Who do you think came in last first? I want to know who you think is the team that came in last, and I'll give you a hint. This team has hit 16% of their first round picks in franchise history, which is pathetic. Not even half of number one's hit rate.
I would say for me, it's probably Raiders, Bengals, Browns, somewhere in like one of those three teams.
The Raiders actually kind of surprised me. They're in 18th. And the middle of this group, this is where I almost cut this from the show, actually, and while I'm speeding it up. The middle of this group, in between like 25% and 31% success rate, is super close. We're talking just point percentages, and the Raiders are in that group. They're in 18th at 28.3%. No, the last three, Tony, are the Jets, who have only hit 22% and 29th. I guess it's the last four. Washington, who's also at 22.4%. Detroit at 17% success rate. And then in last place, Duval. The Jacksonville Jaguars off the top rope with a 16.1% success rate. Almost 1 out of every 10 picks the Jaguars have selected since what? They were in 2000 or 1999 when they came in the league?
Yeah. So I wasn't sure how sample size would affect them. They were definitely in consideration. I would
the
say
Lions would be the tough one. The Lions being at 17% with a 100-year history is brutal.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, if you like, I was making my judgments based on, let's say, the last 30 years, right? And any of those teams that you just named, you can tell they all have the same thing in common. It's like they've just never found an identity, because every one of those teams, you can go through and been like, how did the Bengals not find more success when they drafted a player as good as Carson Palmer? Like,
next is the Bengals. Next is the Bengals. The Bengals are at 28, by the way.
Yeah. And the Jets have had some good players and defensive players in their history there. Like, as you're pouring through these teams, like
Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford getting together.
Yes. The Lions had really good teams. Even some of those teams that were in the 90s, like the early 90s with Barry Sanders, the Wayne Fonts teams, like there's still one of my favorite offenses to watch was like Scott Mitchell, Brett Perryman and Herman Moore and Barry Sanders. Like, it was just so much fun. They were always like high flying, throwing the ball over the place, running like crazy. But like, there's no sort of like culture that comes in. It's like, this is what we're doing. We're going to start at sort of a ground floor. We're going to build this thing a certain way. With a lot of those organizations, it's just very similar. Or like when trends start to happen and it's like, maybe this is the way we used to do things, but we don't find ways to evolve to what and incorporate. We just stay very sort of old school in the way we operate, and it doesn't help them evolve. Like, it's kind of what happened to the Raiders. It's like a lot of those teams that had success in the 70s and 80s, like they just didn't really kind of update the model at all. It's where the Steelers are stuck right now. They're not updating the model. Like, they have so much money invested in the defensive side of the football. It's like, but the league is telling you they don't care about defense because it doesn't give them television ratings.
If anything, they're giving the defense of teams that do that a disadvantage. You know, week after week and year after year, it gets bigger and bigger, the disadvantage between the defense and the offense. I'm with you. I was excited to see our Chargers come in the middle of the pack, Tony. We're at 28.8% throughout our history in literally 16th, which is dead center. I was kind of surprised that the Panthers had a 30%. They're higher than us. Dolphins 30%. They're higher than us. Giants.
Yeah.
I guess the Giants had like a really historic like 80s and 90s of drafts.
The highest hit rate on there would be.
Yeah, let's see the guess here. Let me see your guess here. Who is in first? They're in first by 7%. They have a lead over second place.
I would say historically, Cowboys have been pretty good at drafting
second
first
place.
round.
Second place.
I would say Vikings are probably up there somewhere near the top.
The Vikings are with us. They're in a similar range to us.
Okay.
I'll say the third one is the Chiefs. They're at 35%. So the top three are blank at 43%, Cowboys in second at 36%, and then Chiefs at 35% in third as the top three drafters just in the first round, by the way. I don't know if I clarified that in the beginning, but just in the first round. You're going to be like, duh, once I tell you.
Eagles?
No. The Eagles are actually way down there. I was shocked that the Eagles were so low. It's the Baltimore Ravens. 43.3%. And I'll tell you what, Tony, that makes me feel good. That makes me feel great.
Yeah, they're smart. And so here's the other thing too that like is tough to factor in, but it's like a lot of these, you take a team like the Ravens that are that high, when you are constantly winning and drafting well, that means that you're always drafting down in the 20s to 30s, depending on what era and how many teams are in the league at that time. It gets harder and harder to have a higher hit rate, but yet somehow good organizations always find a way to draft like at least the double, at least the guy that makes a couple of Pro Bowls, gets a second contract. Because I don't care if you're drafting in the first round from 1 to 32, you are drafting a player that you're hoping is worthy of a second contract at some level on your team. Yeah. Whether it's top of the market money or he signs a year early and you're hoping to get him, like in that the bad teams, how many of those players end up on different teams?
That's what I'm saying
some
too.
of them are cut or whatever it is or traded before they even get there.
That is an element that I wanted to add to this. I just didn't really have time to add that extra specific element, is to track which of these players got those All-Pros or got those Pro Bowls on different teams. Like, should Baker Mayfield count as a hit for the Browns? No, he shouldn't. So I didn't really factor that part in, and that would change these numbers a little bit for sure. Because I bet you some of these, like, let's see, like Eli Manning's a good example. Chargers drafted Eli Manning. Did the AI robot know to count that for the Giants?
Yeah,
you have to add those details, and I did not, so probably not.
but I think it would kind of balance out in that particular scenario because then they also got Rivers.
Yeah, we got Rivers.
Would have counted for the Giants, right?
Yeah.
In that,
so we both get one. We both get one there. Yeah,
I guess that so that would kind of cancel each other out. But I do think that there are a lot of scenarios, more so like with the other positions, with the guards, with the offensive linemen. The offense forgot about the defensive linemen, those type of positions and players like that. But ultimately, the Pro Bowl, the All Pros, the things like that are voted, it's like a lot of times there are players that are deserving of certain things that just don't
get it. Yeah.
Because they're not in certain markets or they don't play a position, or there are players at that position that just sort of get the default vote. Like, how many All-Pros has Mike Evans won? I don't know if he's ever been an All-Pro receiver. He's a Hall of Famer. And now if Mike Evans played for the Cowboys, I think he's probably got a couple of All-Pros and worked into his career somewhere there. Because people just don't tend to care about certain areas and teams and organizations. Like, you really got to work for it if you're going to be on like the Carolina Panthers. You really got to be like superstar status for that to happen.
Yeah, so these numbers might not be to an exact science, is the moral of the story. That's my quick study. The Ravens are the best. The Jaguars and Lions are the two worst. Obviously, the Jaguars, a little bit of a disadvantage. Only 20 years worth of drafts compared to everyone else, 50 and 60 years worth. But that is interesting to see, and it makes me feel very happy that the Chargers, ripped out the Ravens staff and brought them to LA. So hopefully we start to see our percentage go up year after year after year while we keep hitting on Joe Alts and whoever we're going to draft this year, which we're going to spoil for you guys soon. One more study that I did that I want to talk about really quick here, Tony. I'm going to list some guys, right, that were drafted first overall. And I want you to start to think about, what do these guys have in common? This is either first overall picks since the year 2000. Caleb Williams, Trayvon Walker, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett, Jared Goff, Jameis Winston, Jadeveon Clowney, Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, Sam Bradford, Jake Long, Carson Palmer, David Carr, Mike Vick. I mean, I could probably keep going, but all of these first-round picks have cursed careers, Tony. I don't know if you've noticed, but they all end up in either terrible situations, which obviously you're the first overall pick, but a lot of people commented this, and were coming after me because I made a TikTok about this already. They're saying, well, obviously the worst team has the first overall pick. But then when you go and look at the second overall pick study, like all the second overall picks had great careers. So the first overall pick seems to be the only spot in the draft over the last 20 years that you almost guarantee yourself that you're not going to win a Super Bowl. If you're taking first overall. Now, some players have done it. Like Eli won a Super Bowl out of first overall. Stafford won a Super Bowl out of first overall. But these guys had to leave their team to go and do it. I'm bringing this all full circle basically to say, like, if you're the Titans or Cam Ward and you're just seeing this trend, would it worry you at all? Like, would you want to just trade out just for the simple fact that it seems like the pressure of picking the best player year after year is collapsing these teams? Like, there's too much on the backs of these players, and even guys like Andrew Luck can't handle it.
So I think the problem is, and there was a lot of teams, if you really looked at that list, that were repeating, that were picking back up there at number 1 overall. A lot of those, I think I heard the Falcons a couple times and the Browns a couple times and
Definitely the Browns.
The Rams were a couple of times in there. Like, you have to get this. There's like it's ownership has to get on the same page with a GM and a coach, and it's all going to start there. And everything you're going to do, like, you have to be on the same page with how you're allocating money and resources, whether it's in free agency or to your facilities, how you take care of the families, and you're building up all of the stuff. But then now, more so than ever, the way that they've structured the rules in the NFL, you are just floundering in the middle of the ocean if you don't have a quarterback. Like, you just cannot play in the modern NFL if you don't have a guy who's a difference maker that's there. And we use this term now where it's like, he has to be a generational talent or whatever it is. How many real generational players have there been? Peyton Manning is one of those guys that was able to take a franchise that had been pretty terrible since, like, Unitas to then, even if, like,
I'm glad you bring him up because he is the last. Well, Eric Fisher did it with the Chiefs, but that's kind of like a mute point. Left tackle comes in it. Peyton Manning is the last, like, true first overall pick to carry his team to dynasty or Super Bowl, whatever you want to call it. They weren't a dynasty, but to carry his team to contention like that. He's the last guy to do it.
That's the point that I'm getting at with this. Is like, if you go and look at the Colts Ring of Honor, Jim Harbaugh's in there for having like 2 good seasons with the Colts. Like, that's what kind of, like, the Colts organization is thought of to be better because of the time period that Peyton Manning was there and carried them. And for him to have to sit out a year where they had, like, Curtis Painter or whatever his name was at quarterback, it's like, then they were able to get Andrew Luck, but even Luck couldn't get the franchise back to where like they wanted them to be because of the way that things are done there. And then Colts fans get frustrated about it. It's like, even now, if you look at the Colts roster, like, it looks pretty good, but I don't have any faith that this thing's going to be figured out with what's going on, where they're going to take the step to where they need to be. So, like, all the first round pick teams need to get on the same page, and they need to say, Callahan, you will be the coach for the rest of this thing. GM, you will be here for this run, no matter what. I don't care how bad it looks or how bad it gets. You will be here for your 4 or 5 year run on this contract. Because I think that since they fired the GM who traded away A.J. Brown, I think they're on GM number 3 in 4 years for the Titans. That's not good. That's not how you run a solid organization. You have to have some continuity, and it's like if it doesn't work out with Cam Ward, is it a 2-year window where they're back up here at the top and it's there again? Like, that can't be the case. You have to say, we're drafting Cam Ward. It's going to be a 4-year window, and we might win 3 games next year. But he's going to learn on the fly. And we might only win in year 2, we might only win 6 or 7 games. But he's our guy. And every move we make is going to be to bolster this position. In the second round, what should the Titans be looking at doing? Should they be looking to draft a wide receiver? Or should they be going and finding out, can we find an offensive tackle in the second round that then we can put on the opposite side of J.C. Latham? Mm-hmm. That's what they should be doing. They should be going, we got quarterback. What should we be doing now? Oh, we pick a 34 or whatever in the second round. Let's trade back in and get Josh Connerly Jr. before the Chiefs can get him, or somebody like that at the end of round 1. Yeah. Let's do this thing where on day 1, we go get left tackle. We move JC back to the right where he played in college. We go get a guy we think can be a left tackle. We got our quarterback. And then we start figuring out other positions in the draft like that. But will they do that? Who knows? They'll probably draft a fun, great wide receiver for the Titans. Like, let's pair Cam Ward with Kyle Williams, who played a year with Washington State or whatever. It's like, okay. All right. Well, good luck with that. Yeah. If he doesn't have time to throw the ball, it's not going to be that magical.
Well, I mean, we just saw them try with Will Levis. I know he wasn't a first-round pick or the first overall pick, but that wasn't very pretty. Yeah, we'll see what 2025 holds for Cam Ward. I'm worried for him because this trend is scary. The moral of the story is even the best player in the nation can't carry a team in this sport. You're exactly right, Tony. You have to build a team. This isn't basketball. You can't just go over everybody. It's not going to work. Who do you think of the last 4 years? We're going to combine Trevor Lawrence and Trayvon Walker together. Caleb Williams and Bryce Young. Me personally, if I had to pick one of those guys to bet on to break this mold and win a Super Bowl out of the first overall pick out of this kind of generation, since Burrow, I would pick Caleb Williams and his situation and what's going on in Chicago. They're starting to do exactly what you're saying. They're committing to something, right? They're committing to something. So that's who I would pick, but what do you think? Young, T-Law, Caleb Williams, Cam Ward. Which of those 4 do you think is most likely to break this?
It's definitely, I feel like it's got to be Caleb has the strongest chance. I will give this, if the combination of Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence, if he's the thing that unlocks him, right? If he's able to get Trevor to play to what we thought, the way he elevated Baker to have a season last year, that if you go back and look at that, I mean, he's borderline MVP level play last year. Impressive. So if he can get Trevor to that scenario, and I've already said to you and Joe and anybody I talk to, the Jaguars are going to be a surprise team where they win 10 games next year. They're challenging the Texans because they're going to have a last place schedule with an offensive coach that I think is going to be able to come in there and elevate Brian Thomas Jr. And if they go with, let's say that they draft, offensive skill player first round and then come back and go Mason Taylor second round.
Who are you thinking, Tony? Who are you thinking? Offensive player
we're going to get my mock draft. So
okay. Wait a second. We're almost there.
Okay. But if they go double up on the offensive, skill positions, maybe they have a chance in year 1 to have an explosive offense. Again, if I were them, I'd probably be looking to go tackle. I don't know how this new GM is going to operate, but if it were me, I'd be looking for interior defensive line or offensive line if I'm picking in the top 5. I don't know that I think they're going to do that. I'm not projecting that anyways. I'm not going to predict it.
Well, we'll see, guys. Our mock drafts are coming. We promise. If you're still tuned into this, appreciate you. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. You've probably seen my ads that I've been plugging in randomly throughout the video. But here's one last reminder before we move on to the final topic before our mock drafts, Tony, to kind of lead into our mock drafts. I don't know if you included any of these players getting traded in your mock draft, but NFL players that me and you are going to try and predict could get traded on draft night or right before or right after the draft. Any of those 3 options, players that we think are going to go for draft capital during the draft. A lot of names have been floated around the internet, Tony. I'll give you my 3 that I'm watching. I'm trying to predict one of these. And there's actually specific teams that I think for at least 2 of these guys at the end of the first round that may shock us. I think 1, this Trey Hendrickson talk is not dead. And I think that those conversations may spike back up again here later on this week. And Trey Hendrickson may go, because he needs this mega contract, he may go for a little bit of a discount for the Bengals to just get it done, get a late first round pick or whatever they get for him, and get a replacement drafted or get a safety or corner or whatever they can with that pick. So I could see that pressure on the Bengals going up. The other one is another edge rusher that I think if the Giants end up in a position to draft an elite edge rusher or a guy that they think is going to be the future of their defense, Kayvon Thibodeau may be on the trade block at the end of the first round where the Giants are thinking about trying to come back in. I don't know if Thibodeau is even worth a first rounder fully. The potential is still there that he had when he was drafted. It just hasn't fully worked out to his max potential in New York. And then the last one, the most popular name, Tyreek Hill still is going to get traded this offseason at some point. And I think that the Dolphins would really like to have the pick, the probably second round pick for this draft. So that's my third one. I'm going to put Tyreek Hill on this list. I don't know to where. Obviously, KC is the most popular one. I don't know how many teams want to give up draft capital for Tyreek Hill at this age with his off-the-field problems and just knowing his style of play and how we hit a limit at some point. But then again, it's Tyreek Hill also. There's going to be teams interested. There's going to be teams interested if the Dolphins come down on price.
Yeah, if whatever the asking price is, I definitely think there are some teams that are willing to take that risk because the reward is potentially, taking their offense to a new level that no rookie, second, third round pick rookie is going to be able to do. They don't exist in this draft. I don't even think even in the first round for 1 or 2 years. I'm going to add to the list here. We already talked about tight ends, but I think I talked about with the Jaguars tight end. I think that if they reach out to the Eagles and say, hey, what's the action with Dallas Goedert in this situation? He's an upgrade for them there. And also, if you're going to be in a situation with the Titans, I like Chigo Okonkwo, but why not, reach out Eagles, Ravens again in that situation?
You think any value on Kyle Pitts anyways?
What is it?
You think anyone sees any value in trying to get Kyle Pitts last year of his contract?
I do. You're not going to like what I have to say, but I could see the Chiefs reaching out to a team like the Falcons and saying hey,
yeah, never mind. I didn't like it. You're right.
Yeah. What's
up? What's it going to take? Because clearly not a top 5 pick.
So wasn't it a couple years ago they made a move for Kadarius Toney or whatever, right? Where they're always just trying to find certain players that Andy Reid will say, hey, I can maximize the talent here. I can design things to get you to this spot.
In here with Kelsey and Gray and these guys. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, where he comes in and now all of a sudden it's you have the one reason I wouldn't do that is because
they drafted Wiley though. Too. That kid is fun.
Yeah, he's not the upside of Kyle Pitts. I will say that the middle of the field, the way that he works with that, Rashee Rice and Kyle Pitts and Kelsey, it might not be this year that they try to make that because that's a lot of players to kind of feature in that area. The last person I want to talk about in this situation, I've seen a little bit of hey, Jets are interested in Ashton Genty potentially or whatever, right? If that's the case, I think Breece Hall is up for a team to go out there and say, a team like the Chargers to say, hey, what is this final year? He wants a contract extension. We're willing to send you a 4th round pick, 5th round pick for a running back because we're going to extend him. Yeah. We're gonna give him a 3-year contract extension to pair him with Najee. So you have the the more explosive running back in the backfield, and then you have that. So just when not just the Chargers, I could see a team like the Browns reaching out to the Jets and saying, "Oh, he's out there. We'd like him to be there." The Steelers are another team where it's like if it's a later round pick, I don't think for running back, and especially in a draft like this, that the asking price is going to be as high as what the, like the fans would be like, no way you could get Breece Hall for a 4th rounder. It's like, but what team is going to give up like a 3rd round pick for a running back they're going to have to pay in a draft like this where they're like, screw it, I'll just keep my 3rd round pick and I'll draft Cam Scatterbo or, like, I don't know, DJ Giddens or whatever running back in that 3rd round area that they're like, why draft him? I'll just draft Bashal Tutin. Like, he's fast. He's explosive running back. That's why I think the running backs go for less than what the fans might think they would go for. But they also drafted Braylon Allen last year. If you're telling me that they're interested in Genty and Braylon Allen and Breece Hall, like, it just doesn't make sense. But when I heard it, I was like, well, it's a reporter saying that they like him. Like, maybe he heard something. So I would
also in the same breath, Jets, Jets, Tony. So they'll get too sure that they're going to do anything. Honestly,
if this Jets organization does not draft offensive or defensive line, I'll just be like, or corner. Like if they drafted corner, one of those spots, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But if they're like
corners, I think Jalen Ramsey's a name to watch. We already talked about him on this show. Another one that people have forgotten about that's on kind of like the trade market flux is Jair Alexander. Not sure what he's going to warrant his age with his injuries, but maybe a day 2 pick or something. He gets traded out of nowhere and shocks us. You want to hear one that might be crazy, Tony, but I just want to say it before I don't say it and it happens. I don't think that Dave Canales likes Bryce Young as much as everyone thinks. I don't. I really don't. I know it might be crazy. I just think in this QB class, they're looking at it and, a team's not like, oh, I'm going to try and develop one of these later quarterbacks. A team like the Rams, a team like the Raiders, other QB needy teams, they don't end up getting their guy. Maybe they say, we'll give it to you for Bryce and trade the Panthers for Bryce and the Panthers can move on to Aaron Rodgers or something.
That's not going to happen.
All right, we'll see. I just wanted to say it, Tony, just in case,
I know. I think Bryce played way better than you do down the stretch last year, and I don't know.
My problem isn't that he played bad. My problem is that he played at his best that we've seen him play, and they still were terrible. That's my problem. But like, where did he go from there? Like,
that's an organizational thing. Like right now, the Panthers are deciding on Ike Ekwonu's 5th-year option because he hasn't worked out there. But it's like that. The more that this new regime builds up and its 2nd year in this offense, like I think the Panthers, I really like the Deshaun Wharton. They get back Derek Brown. They can land in a playmaker on the edge. Spoiler, huge move in my mock draft of what I think the Panthers can do. Here we go. We're about to get into it right now. Yeah. Very soon.
I want to throw it out there, Tony. I've been on this whole Bryce Young to the Rams thing for a while now. I want to keep on it. I'm not going to give up until it happens. I think too much damage is done. I still think too much damage is done. I think that they're going to be playing their backup quarterback at some point next year and suck again. That's what I think is going to happen.
I mean, it would be fun. I would really like to see Bryce Young operate Sean McVay's offense. Now, the problem is that part of what makes it look so spectacular right now is the fact that Matthew Stafford is one of the most underrated quarterbacks of the last 30 years. If he doesn't, he reminds me of Carson Palmer, where it's like, oh man, all this talent, but they started off their career in a place that kind of, made them their name, put a little stank on their name, but then they end up in a spot where it's like, oh, Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer, and people were like, well, what's this? It's like, no, it's just because of where he was at and the fact that he like had to retire at 30 or whatever because he couldn't handle being a Cincinnati Bengal anymore. It's like, yeah, that's how this works. Carson Palmer had a good year with the Raiders too. Remember, like he had, he was a really good player.
Well, I fear for Burrow becoming second version, just keeps getting paid, but getting paid to win 10 games and lose in the first round.
The Bengals did what I was like, there's no way that they can do this.
Yeah.
There's no way they can make this happen. And somehow they made it happen. And it's like, well, this is going to be one of the most fun experiments we've ever seen, ladies and gentlemen, because
all offense, no defense, or all defense, no offense. Steelers versus Bengals games are going to be interesting.
If they have if the Bengals defense, the past couple of years, they've been putting in a lot of picks on this defense. If all of a sudden that all these defensive picks hit, right, and Lou Anarumo was somehow the issue, which I don't think was the case, but if this Bengals defense hits,
they're going to win it?
There'll be this is a Super Bowl team, right? But it has to be the Miles Murphys, Chris Jenkins, Dax Hill.
Yep.
Like there was another guy, I'm blanking on his name, they drafted on the defensive line. Like, these guys gotta start hitting in this spot, because right now it's like Trey Hendrickson wants out, Jermaine Pratt wants out, like guys that are really effective on this team. DJ Turner is another draft pick that needs to hit for them. Like, they gotta start landing some of these, and if they do, watch out. Like, that will be a great team.
Well, if they do, maybe when they do, Tony, which brings us to the final part of the show, the part that you guys have all been waiting for if you're listening to the full-length podcast, our accurate, exactly correct mock drafts for the 2025 NFL Draft, Tony. We're not going to get a single pick wrong. Well, I guess it's impossible for us both to be 100% right, but we are competing, ladies and gentlemen, and we want you guys to compete against us. My friend Joe Morley is sending his in as well. We are going to be together, watching the draft together, live streaming, sending out our reactions to all these picks, and competing with these mock drafts. So if you want to compete along with us, follow along, put down your mock draft in the comment section below, and we'll keep track of who has the most accurate at the end of this. Tony, we're going to go pick for pick so we can go through this, talk about the teams. Things are going to start going left, things are going to start going right, and we'll just go with it. We'll see how it goes. But I'll start first. The first overall pick, Tennessee Titans. I thought at first maybe they might be interested in trading this pick because it seemed like they were putting out that they wanted everybody. I was like, okay, you want everybody? You're saying that you are down to draft every single player? Like, yeah, that sounds like somebody trying to entice everyone else. We might take your guy if you don't trade up. But all the rumors, everything is settled. It's gonna be Cam Ward. I think the Titans are going to draft Cam Ward with the first overall pick, and I think that he should be the first overall pick unless a team already had a quarterback and we're in this position. I think he's got the NFL QB size you want. He's got steady arm, escape ability in the pocket, keeps his eyes downfield when he's making guys miss, like some of these young quarterbacks that we've seen do, and not looking just to take off right away. We saw Jaden Daniels almost like make that a superhuman weapon of his last year. The one thing nothing like jumps off about a lot of prospects to me in this year's draft class, and it's a draft class. I think it's the same thing here with Cam Ward. Like, nothing jumps off as like this guy is special at this one thing. He's just super well-rounded. But what do you think? Maybe you can give us your first pick too, if it's the same. But what do you think about Cam Ward's potential?
Yeah, it is Cam Ward, and I do think that something that happens is when the people who talk on TV don't have enough quarterbacks to debate and whatever. And the more reports that came out that how big the gap was between Sanders and Cam Ward based on scouts' evaluations, right? I don't claim to be a scout. I don't make a big board. I don't evaluate these guys. I watch highlights, or if it's a player that I've watched the highlights and it's really fun, I'll go try to see if there's a game on TV. I'll look up a game where they had a bunch of stats, and I'll go try to watch a couple of quarters of that. I don't sit down and pretend to have grades written on these players. Yeah. When you watch Cam Ward, when he runs around, he uses his mobility to find ways to make plays down the field. And I think that's something that is what makes Mahomes a great player, right? He runs when he needs to. He's not the fastest guy, but he's the fastest guy when he needs to be. That's the thing we hate about watching Mahomes is how are you outrunning these guys? Or how did you find a way to kind of manipulate this situation to be able to make a big play down the field. Now, is he landing in a spot that's super great? No. Could it be in a couple of years? Maybe. If the drafting and they're all on the same page. I do think that like he has a chance to eventually someday get into the top 10. Like he has the ability to do that, but there's going to have to be stability from the organization. And at this point, you have to draft this guy if you're in this spot because you're hoping to not be here. And it's not like, it's not like a draft where I don't think it's, 2021, where it was like Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, and all that. Like, I think that Cam Ward is worthy of the number 1 overall pick. Would he have been in last year's draft? No. But in this draft, I think he's worthy of the number 1 pick for the Titans, who this to me will be a big upgrade. There's still going to be some plays that are going to be like the Will Levis type shit.
That's what I worry about. That's why I worry about slightly, because it's like,
what are you doing?
His escapability is great, but sometimes it can be a little risky with it. Like he's almost not watching his picks, and we're going like this a lot, and that's the dumbassery that led to the Will Levis like consecutive week streak of lowlights. Just like every week he would have a new worse lowlight than the previous week, where he's trying to do a backflip and then throws an interception.
Yes,
I don't want to start doing any of that stuff. I want Dave Canales to be able to get in this kid's head and just be like, hey, man, I know you can do all that stuff. We're going to start with just the simple things. We're going to get you throwing slants.
So I will say that he is a self-proclaimed gunslinger, and you see that in his play, and it's fun to watch. Like watching some Miami games. I didn't watch him at Washington State at all, but I watched a couple of the Miami games this year, and I'm like, this is fun. Like I enjoy it, and I think that I will enjoy Titans games more if he's the quarterback. So I look forward to it. I'm rooting for him. Like I think it's exciting for him to be there.
There's no one else in this range at quarterback that has the arm like him and the escapability like him. Like there's a bunch of guys that are great runners like Milroe, and there's guys that are just like straight gamers like Leonard from Notre Dame, and there's guys that have the accuracy. Maybe you could say that's your Shadur Sanders or the cannon arms, but it just seems like Cam Ward is the only one that's the whole package out of all the quarterbacks I looked at. So. Yeah,
I think he's the closest to what the whole package would be. I told you right away when we were watching when I was watching him last year that he reminded me of Steve McNair, and then Titans end up with the first overall pick. I think that's a fun.
That's good. That's a good video. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's
Warren Moon to McNair to there you go.
Yeah, it's. I don't think he's like Warren Moon, but
I just mean like that mobile quarterback style, that dual threat quarterback style, keeping that rolling, that history in Tennessee. They've got it. It's rich.
Warren Moon was another guy that was just underrated. Like Warren Moon, that you want to go back and watch somebody zing a football like Warren Moon could rip it.
Going fools. Well, we'll see how Cam Ward does in Tennessee. We both have Ward to the Titans at first overall. Let's see how long it takes for us to change courses here, Tony. I'm going to guess it's at number 2. Well, let's see.
I don't think so.
I got Cleveland Browns are on the clock. And yeah, I don't really like want them to draft anyone. I wish we could just skip this pick and just don't ruin someone's career. If you go through the Browns' history of drafting inside of the top 5, just drafting in general, but in the top 5 especially, like this is a doomed pick. So I'm sorry. So Abdul Carter, who I have being drafted to the Cleveland Browns as 2nd overall, your career has somehow just been ruined, even though you're teaming up with Myles Garrett. And that's why I have them drafting Abdul Carter here. They somehow convinced Myles to stay. Now, I think, a lot of it is just we're giving you a crazy bag that you can't get anywhere else because we're the Browns and we're dumb and we're willing to do it just to keep anyone that'll sell jerseys and tickets on this freaking team. But another thing is, I think, is they've told him kind of their plans with the 2nd overall pick. You can't tell me that they sold him on Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett and Deshaun Watson. All over social media just keeps posting that he's coming back next year and he's going to be in Cleveland. I think that the only way you convince Myles, it's not even with a corner either. The Browns have plenty of corners. If you just tell him, like, dude, you're going to have some crazy sack season because quarterbacks are going to be running away from the other guy. on the other side. We're taking Carter at 2. And Miles was like, sign me up. I'll break the sack record.
So I'm glad that you enjoyed eating that bullshit sandwich of him saying that, because that's exactly what it was. They basically said, we're not trading you. What's it going to take? We're going to go 18% over the price of, to make you the highest non-paid quarterback. We're going to totally screw over everybody else who's waited to pay. They're great players, and we don't care because we're the Cleveland Browns, and that's what we do. I think that the thing is, we're going to get you a veteran quarterback, whether it's Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr mixed in with this, or we're going to, we will have Joe Flacco, but we're also going to get a rookie. I don't.
You didn't just leave Watson at home, like just don't come.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be around the team at all anymore, and he's rehabbing, and it's I don't know how it works, but I don't think he'll be. I don't want to go down that road. I will say, I think the pick is Travis Hunter. I don't think you can pass up on what is like, let's say we draft him, and Andrew Berry already said they see him as a wide receiver. They need more explosion in this offense. Kevin Stefanski is a really, I think, a really good offensive coordinator, puts together. I don't know.
Tony, I will say, the more and more that I watch, I used to be like, you should probably play him at corner. It's hard to find corners, but I'm starting to lean towards you to play him at receiver too.
So the reason that I say that you would draft him and play him at wide receiver is, let's say for some reason it doesn't work. All of a sudden they're just pressing him and he's not good. Well, he could go on the flip, and just be like, hey, it didn't work out in year one.
Maybe I'm a corner. Yeah.
Let's play him at corner, and he could. You're drafting the opportunity to have
chances.
It's almost like even the Browns can't mess this up. Like, you were going to get a player.
That's the problem. That's why I can't mock him to the Browns, Tony. That's why I can't, because they will mess him up. He'll be demanding a trade by year 3.
I don't think the Browns necessarily mess up every first-round pick. It's that they mess up other parts of it, right? Where it's like Joe Thomas. You couldn't mess that up. Myles Garrett, you can't mess that up. What you do is sort of mess up organizationally. I think that you bring in you bring in Travis Hunter, and now you have a player that's exciting, that gets people talking about your organization. Not that Abdul Carter won't do that, but I just think there's another level of what Travis Hunter brings to the table. And now all of a sudden, if Jerry Jeudy's the second option, and then they got Tillman from Tennessee who came on. I'm not sure his injury status. And if they don't trade Njoku, now all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're running back away from letting Flacco and a rookie, or Kirk Cousins and Flacco, or, whoever the quarterback situation, can't battle duel is. We're letting them try to figure this out here. And we're not so bad off, we'll be fine.
Yeah, you're right. Because at corner, I'm looking here. Obviously, they still have Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and I think Martin Emerson Jr. is one of the underrated corners in the league. Like, you're right. They don't need a corner. This is why also I was like, how are they going to draft him and then immediately tell him, after he said himself, you're not playing both ways, when he said I will sit before I don't play both ways. Like, if a team tells me, I know, Tony, they say these things. I know, and I'm with you 100%. Travis Hunter is not going to sit out of games because you're not letting him play both ways. That's not going to happen. But does that scare you from drafting somebody? I would be worried if a guy is straight up saying to the camera, basically, I know the Browns have a lot of corners. That's basically what he's saying. Because all the other positions here, all the other teams here will let him play both ways.
The Browns do whatever they want, and they don't give a shit. Look at the situations that they're in. They just...
Well, they had Baker in the first place. They just had Baker. So Baker was a I don't give a shit pick, and then letting him go, you should have just stuck with the fucking...
I talked about it when Baker was gone, when they moved down from Baker. I said it was stupid and it was a bad thing, and it's proved to be that.
They would be in a great spot right now. They would be in a great spot.
They'd be an amazing
They wouldn't be
spot.
picking here. They wouldn't be picking here.
No, they would have continued to figure things out. He played the 1 year with the bad shoulder while he was still out there grinding, and just I just think Baker, maybe he's never elite level the way people want, but I just think that if that guy's leading your football team and now he's starting to grow into fatherhood and maturity and he's being what you hoped he could be, and it's like the Bucs have a steal on that contract and that player, and
he seems like like as a guy, just seems like a lot of fun to work with, be around, have fun, has fun every day. It seems like. So yeah, I'm with you 100% now on Baker. Back then, I think my biggest thing is like he didn't really find the balance when it was time to be aggressive and be like that psycho Baker where he's at his best, and when to pull that back. But like you said, over experience, you're gonna figure that out. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna get better over time. Anyways, let's continue on with our mock draft here, Tony. On to another interesting prediction that I have here. You know, another bullshit sandwich for you. I think all the buzz in this year's draft when it comes to trading up for a player has been for one guy. It's been Ashton Jeanty. Everyone just keeps talking about Ashton Jeanty over and over and over and over again. I've seen, when I was going through the teams interested in Jeanty, the whole list. I went and looked at which teams attended the Boise State Pro Day, the whole list. Like, everyone is basically like on the ready for this guy to fall, which is why I don't think he's going to fall at all. I think that the Bears are trading from 10 with the New York Giants here to come up and get Ashton Jeanty. Now, I think DeAndre Swift, they may lose a defensive piece. I don't know who they're going to have to include in this deal. The Bears should not trade 3 first-round picks for Ashton Jeanty or whatever it's going to take. So they're going to have to trade players to make this even realistic. I think maybe a better option to actually do this is the Raiders, but I have other conspiracy theories about the Raiders because they're closer. It wouldn't have to go as far. But I think with the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Raiders, the Jets, like Ashton Jeanty's not getting outside the top 10. Every team seems to know that and is talking about it. So I'm going to try and be ballsy here, Tony, and say he's the player that a team trades up for. I have another player getting traded up for in the top 10, but this is the one here.
So we just talked about how the Bears need to organizationally, they're doing things right, they need to do whatever, and now you're telling me they're trading up, giving up probably a future first to go from 10 to 3. So that's a 7-pick jump to go to number 3 overall, and then they're drafting a running back. I'm all for it. If Ashton Jeanty ends up on the Bears, it would be a lot of. It would be.
You know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think that if draft day somehow this pairing ends up there, I'm all for it. Like I would be. I think it's exciting. I just personally think that this would be a bad.
Me and you know reality and what might be coming. So I'm just trying to like steer. I'm a big believer in manifestation. So let's just steer it a different direction than that.
Oh, well, if you think it's I think all the smoke around the Raiders is ridiculous.
Do you think I have some conspiracies about the Raiders too, but let's talk about Jeanty really quick before you reveal your pick here, which was originally the Giants picking at 3rd overall. Jeanty, you obviously have him mocked somewhere. Do you think he will go top 5? Just yes or no real quick.
I don't.
Okay. So we don't see the same like hype on him, I guess. Like you still see he's RB1 obviously, but I think that these teams like see him as the player of this draft for some reason. I personally don't see it. I'm scared he's going to be the next Trent Richardson personally.
No, I don't think that. So one of the things I thought was funny was like his recent comment everybody got excited about was like, oh, Ashton Jeanty wants to come to the NFL and be Saquon Barkley and do Saquon Barkley things and all these things. And it's like,
I do too.
Yes, please. Yes, everybody wants that to happen. Here's the issue with that is that remember Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants. Don't imagine Saquon Barkley from the Philadelphia Eagles with one of the best offensive lines in the league. Like that's the situation that we're talking about. It's like, yeah, you could come here into the NFL and do these type of things, but organizationally, I'm not sure that certain teams are built for that. I will say that I do think the Bears have put together a pretty good offensive line with a head coach who's going to be able to call that kind of game plan where that makes sense, where he can go ahead and come into the league and really have like, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders like impact in the NFL because the offensive line is already built and the guy designing the game plan has put that together. That's the situation. Is like you have to have that perfect marriage of everything coming together where it's like we have the components, we have the architect, and now we have the player. We merge together and it's just full steam ahead, just crushing it. So I'm all for Ashton Jeanty being a fantastic, great player in the NFL as long as it's not for the Raiders at 6. But it's not, in my mind, I can't imagine Ryan
team trading up for him.
We're trading up. Now, could they trade up to 6 or 7?
I will take credit, by the way, if that happens. I will take credit. Yeah,
where could they trade up to a spot where the impact is they're giving up a second or a third or something like that? Then maybe I could see that. I have a trade up in this spot too, Mike, because I just think
you know what's funny though. Before you say it though, Tony, you know what's funny though? Maybe the Giants could use Jeanty.
So I didn't know if we wanted to talk about this or not. I've been telling you and Joe that I feel like the owner just walks into their office and goes, "Hey guys, your first round draft boards, it doesn't even matter. Because you guys owe me a Saquon Barkley, and you're drafting Ashton Jeanty whether you like it or not. Like, you two bozo, like, he just is so mad. He's like, you guys won't even be here in 9 months. He's like, this is the player I want. You guys owe me a high-quality running back, and I'm going to get him right now on your watch." Like, people, when they drafted Saquon Barkley at 2 overall, people thought that it was, like, kind of crazy. Hey, this is really high to be drafting. And Saquon, to me, was better than what we thought of Ashton Jeanty, at least like 100%. In my mind. When I remember, what'd you say?
I just said more well-rounded for sure.
Yeah, we just thought he was more dynamic. We just thought he was faster version of what we think of Ashton Jeanty in a way. Like he had that home run speed. So I don't know. I could see it on draft day, John Maher just sitting up there going like, you guys know the routine here, all right? You guys know what you have to do. You're getting me my Saquon Barkley back. We might not be able to get him, but I haven't slept in a year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, what do you got happening here, Tony? I want to hear your trade now. So we still have a trade. That's good.
Yes, we do. My favorite little chimes, the pick is in, and there's been a trade. The Carolina Panthers are trading from number 8 to 3rd overall and selecting Abdul Carter. I think Abdul Carter is, when we put him in what they have on the defensive line, they brought Jadeveon Clowney there. He's really good at playing the run. If Derek Brown comes back from the injury and is playing at even a similar 85% level, I told you I like the Deshaun Wharton pick. Now all of a sudden you have a defensive line that's going to go get it. You got J.C. Horn there. I believe, is this the team that brought Morig, the safety from the Raiders? I don't remember. But they're starting to put something together defensively where now all of a sudden you aren't asking Bryce Young to have to compete with, hey, you got to go out there and score 30 points a game because we have somebody who's going to be able to go on the other side and make some more plays for this team. And even if it does, I don't think they'd have to, but even if they have to give up next year's first, I would still think that this would be the caliber player that would help them be the first they'd be giving up would be like pick 18 or 19 or something like that, as opposed to, hey, we're moving up for this and we're giving up a top 5 to 7 pick the following year. So I'm with you
on the
Giants, no matter what.
Yeah.
I made the jokes about what the owner would say, but I think no matter what, the Giants should be looking to move back in the first round of this draft. I think they should be looking to say, hey, who wants to come up here for number 3 and come get this spot? Because if they draft Shedeur at 3 or they take Ashton Jeanty or whatever, I can guarantee that the Patriots are drafting Abdul Carter.
Yeah,
he's still on the board at 4. They are sprinting.
He's a Patriot. Yeah, he's a Patriot right away. I think Carter is the edge rusher of this class. There's some good edge rushers, man, and there's some more guys that are going to go in the first round for sure. But everyone has their own little thing, their weakness, right? Carter doesn't have that. This is Micah Parsons 2.0. The injuries, I guess, is a concern, is the biggest concern with him. This is also, to bring this up while you're talking about the Giants really quickly, this is what I was saying. Watch out for that Kayvon Thibodeau or another trade. I think the Giants maybe try and get another either first or second round pick. Try and maximize their picks because they do have a lot of holes that they need to address and fill if they really want to rebuild this thing appropriately. And I like you said, I don't know what the leash is on the current staff and coach situation, but they're trying to win. It ain't going to just be like overnight. It isn't going to happen. It's not possible when you don't have a quarterback, first of all. So we'll see what the Giants do there. This is an interesting point. It seems like every draft has a pivot point. This feels like, 3 seems to be that spot. Like what happens there is going to turn this a bunch of different directions for different teams. Let's go to 4 here. We have Abdul Carter off the board on both of our drafts here, Tony, by the time the Patriots get to 4. And all the rumors that I'm reading, I'm trying to be accurate here. So I'm not trying to be too crazy. I already, gave a trade up to 3 for Ashton Genty, but I got them just playing it simple and, having a Joe Alt situation and solidifying their O-line and taking the LSU tackle, Will Campbell, at 4th overall. I like what the Patriots have done this offseason. I think that they're going back to the Patriot way. This is like the only coach, Vrabel, that's like taken the Patriot way outside of the Patriots and made it work and now has brought it back to the Patriots. I feel like New England is in a position here where they can solidify the O-line and get the tackle of the future. They'll do it. But
I agree. I have the same pick. I have Will Campbell here. And this is – so I think that we listen to they go, well, Will Campbell's a guard. He doesn't have long enough arms, or he doesn't have the wingspan, or he doesn't have whatever. But like part of the sacrifice on those numbers is that you need guys that are as athletic to keep up with the way that the defensive end / now edge rusher position is changing. You have to have somebody who not only has the physical capabilities to be strong enough, but now you have to be quick enough to deal with these players. And sometimes that doesn't come in the exact package that you would like. That's why it would have been crazy for the Chargers to pass on Joe Alt for a wide receiver in that spot last year, because how often do you have somebody that's that athletic with those measurements, with that play level in college? And I think that Will Campbell has shown a lot of really good stuff at LSU, who loves football, who's also good in the run game. And you have a quarterback that had a terrible go at it last year because of how bad the offensive line was. Like, I just remember watching that Chargers-Patriots game and just going like, this is brutal for Drake May. Like, this is not a good situation for this kid to be in. And if you don't take him here, now if somebody is, like if they have a chance to trade back, let's say the first 3 picks are, Ward, Hunter, Carter. Now, if somebody says like, oh man, I want to get ahead of the Jaguars because I want whatever. The other player I factored in here was Mason Graham. Was like, even though they brought in Milton Williams, maybe they just say like, we're going to go ahead and get this one here, and then we'll trade back into the end of the first, the Patriots will, and we'll draft, maybe an offensive lineman falls down there that we really like. Josh Simmons is there at the end of the first, or Josh Connolly Jr. or Calvin Banks falls, and there's somebody that we trade back in with a team like Minnesota, who's only got like 4 or 5 picks left this year because they made the 2 trade ups in last year's first round to get McCarthy and Dallas Turner. So like, I personally I feel really good about Will Campbell. Let's say he doesn't work out at tackle, you move him into guard, and he's playing high-level guard for you. And it's not ideal at number 4, but you try him at left tackle in year 1. If it's terrible, you reevaluate the position again, and you move on. You go that way with it.
Peter Skoronski plan. That's what you're saying. Or the Rashawn Slater plan. It worked for us. He ended up just staying at tackle, but the plan was if he doesn't work at tackle, going to be a guard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They never even let Skoronski try. That was.
He didn't even play a snap. I thought he did. I thought he played in the preseason and then got.
They just put him out there guard, and I never saw him play any snaps preseason or anywhere other than guard. And it's like, but it's fun. I mean, it's
host of the show here.
Great. It's not great, but it's the reality of their situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, even if you're just following from what makes sense, the rumor mills is just like keeps hammering home that Will Campbell is going to the Patriots. All of their insiders mock draft him to the Patriots. It's just everything is pointing that direction. All right, let's go to 5. Jaguars are at 5, right? I had to double check this. I want to make sure. Yeah, Jaguars are at 5. I have the Jaguars in a pickle here because in my board, Travis Hunter is still there. But, and I like the prospect of him going to Jacksonville too. I think that this will be a fit for him to play both ways, do all the stuff he wants to do, and find success doing so. I just think for some reason that the Jaguars, they're committed to building the D-line, and they've been trying. They've been taking swings, and, the Trayvon Walker pick has shown results now. Maybe you keep going down that path, and you take defensive tackle Mason Graham at 5th overall over a corner. I think maybe a D tackle can help them a little bit more, even in the coverage department, than a corner would. Because now all of a sudden, you're not just like having a weakness up the middle. You have someone in there paired up. I think Arik Armstead is still on the team, and the Jaguars can build one of the better D lines in the NFL, which can blanket kind of a bad secondary that needs more than just a corner right at this very second. I do think this is potentially, if Travis Hunter somehow gets to this spot, where he goes, but trying to be ballsy. I'm trying to make some crazy predictions, which is a spoiler for my next pick here. But for 5, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars on. They take the no-brainer, the best defensive tackle right now in this class, although there's guys that played on the D-line with him in Michigan that are probably also going to go in the first round. But the best defensive tackle in this draft, according to all grades, Mason Graham, Tony.
You're never going to get me to say anything bad about a guy from Michigan. Mason, as long as Mason Graham doesn't end up on the Raiders, I will be happy.
Imagine Christian Wilkins, Graham, and Crosby.
And I think Kuntz is a hell of a player. They still got to figure if they can get anything out of Tyree Wilson. It'd be a really, really dangerous defensive line if they added Mason Graham. So I like all the logic. I'm just imagining a world in which Travis Hunter's still on the board.
Yeah, I know.
The internet will be on fire. Like if he's still on the board at 6, like the internet will be going like, what's wrong with the NFL? These guys are idiots. They do this every year.
Buckle up.
Yeah, anyway. The people will be going crazy if that's the case.
I think it is interesting though. It is interesting the aspect of him playing both ways. It's either going to like help his it should help his draft stock no matter what. But at the same time, like I don't view him right away and trust him. I have similar worries that I would have to any corner that's 180 pounds going into the NFL. I have the same exact, I don't care how fast or athletic you are. And then also at receiver, same issue. You know what I mean? Like he's going to get pushed around a lot. He's going to have to overcome that. We saw Xavier Worthy get body slammed a few times at the beginning of the year.
I just think that if he's Devonta Smith on one side, and then he's like sort of, young Asante Samuel Sr., like back in the day for the Eagles and Patriots and stuff like that. It's like, well, you're going to hit either way, whichever way you want to put him on the field. Like, I just cannot see him being on the board at 6. It would be like, because even the Patriots at that point would be like, all right, this is our pick at 4. This is what's going to happen. Even if you need tackle again, we pick at 34. Let's just trade back in with a team like the Commanders who only have 5 picks at 29 and get a tackle too for our guy here. But I went with the Jaguars and Liam Cohen saying, you know what worked out really good for me last year? Mike Evans was really nice. It'd be great. Teteroa McMillan and Brian Thomas Jr. and then letting Parker Washington play those slot snaps where it's like, your guy, Mike, finally has arrived in year 3. Little inside joke for me and Mike. We did a mock draft like 3 years ago, and Mike had his sleeper. It was like pick 31. He was 32. He went Parker Washington sneaking into the first round. It was It was a really funny moment.
Who was it to? Which team was it to?
I
Was it
forget.
the Vikings or something?
Yeah, it was like a team was drafting him at 30 or 31.
Well, I always get upset because you guys are always like, Mike, you give the most boring, lame duck takes. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm like a dumb kid. That's what dumb kids do. So I try to be off the wall, and then you guys are like, wow, you really think the Bears would do something that stupid, Mike? What an idiot. I'm like, well, what do you guys want from me? You want boring picks, or you want me to go off the wall and put Parker Washington in the first round, who's now looking like a solid wide receiver 3, Tony?
What's funny is that you putting Parker Washington there was not nearly as crazy as Bill Belichick drafting Cole Strange in that same draft. I think it was insane. Where it was like, what just happened?
Well, I like your pick though. I like McMillan. He's a freaking beast. He's gonna be a beast.
I think that if you have two players now that can stretch the field, and Brian Thomas Jr. I think is quickly going to become one of the better receivers in the NFL with Liam Cohen calling the plays at least for the next couple of years there in Jacksonville. And Trevor Lawrence, he can sling it. He's not afraid to go downfield. So I don't necessarily think this is the pick, but I like the fit. So I just put Tetaroa there. And I'm not one of these people that is like, well, last year I watched him and I was like, oh, he's a top 5 pick. And then the whole draft process plays out and the guy doesn't run. And I'm like, well, he's no longer a top 5 pick because he won't run the 40 for me. I'm like, no, I've watched this guy for the past 2 years, like crush it in college football with sort of average level quarterback play. And now you're telling me that he's going to get a chance to play with Trevor Lawrence and have a guy that's proven to run some pretty good offenses. I'm all on board with him having a breakout rookie year as wide receiver 2 in the offense. Like, I think it would be a great fit.
You know, the funny thing is that people take him out of the top 5 because he didn't run the 40, but he's not running the 40 because he knows if he doesn't run a 4.4, it's only going to hurt him. Like, you have to be a blazer for that even to matter, like to help you at all. If you run a 4.6, it's going to hurt you. But this guy runs a 4.6, I'm still all in. So I've seen him stride. That 4.6 ain't a normal 4.6. All right, he's freaking fast. He's not a slow receiver by any means. I think that this guy is a lot like Drake London. I see so many similarities to Drake London, and I think that he could be even better with a good quarterback. Drake London hasn't had steady quarterback play yet.
Let me see here. I kind of I like Larry Fitzgerald.
Well, that's good. He plays like a madman too. This guy. Yeah, I like him. I have him as my wide receiver 1 as well, Tony, here in a few picks. But let me get you through 6 here.
Go ahead.
Just get ready. Anyways, I have the Las Vegas Raiders on the clock here at 6, and with their pick, they're taking tight end Tyler Warren to the Raiders. We're taking a 3 tight end system. Michael Mayer, Tyler Warren, Brock Bowers, with Geno Smith throwing to him, Tony. This is going to be the best tight end room you have ever seen. I'm just kidding. That's not actually it. This is where I have it, right? I had thought about it at the Patriot spot. I had thought about it at the Jaguar spot. I even thought about it at the Giants spot. But the buzz is that the San Francisco 49ers want to do something crazy in this draft. I don't know what it is exactly that may be, or who the 49ers may be targeting with this crazy thing that they want to do in the draft. But the 49ers, I just have been kind of insane in the draft, either, trading up and being way too aggressive or being too passive and drafting kickers in round 3. Travis Hunter's falling down the board. 49ers, bang, bang, Niner gang. They need a receiver, Tony. They need a corner. I mean, I think Travis Hunter will be happy if this happened.
I think this would be the people will be like, this is the steal of the draft. Like the 49ers.
Also need some entertainment in this draft, because I feel like the news cycle, everything's been kind of, for us, it's still just as much fun because we're all crazy fans. But for like the general fans that I'm trying to target with my content, they're all kind of on snooze still. And the draft's in less than a week now.
So I think it's a perfect fit because this is one where it's like, I would feel very comfortable with them playing him at cornerback first, and then having Kyle Shanahan each week say, hey, here's 10 plays where we're going to use this guy. We have 5 red zone plays, and then we have some sort of like, 3rd and 13 couple, longer down and distance plays where they could use him there. This would be an exciting, draft day development that happened. And good for the Niners, a team that I don't particularly like, but I would be happy for all sides.
The Raiders are out of the top 10 now, so fuck out of here.
Trade them out. So the Raiders again, and this is like my own personal, you have trouble mocking them a good player, but I did eventually settle on Jahdae Barron, the corner from Texas. I don't want this to happen either. It makes sense from the standpoint of like, if you already do have a good defensive line, you having the player in this secondary that they can move around each week based on need and matchup. Like, hey, we need you to focus on tight end this week. We know that you can also play outside corner. We could play you at safety. Like, in the Texas-Michigan game this last year, watching him cover Colston Loveland was frustrating to the point where I was like, who is this kid? Where I'm like on my phone, like looking up, like, what's going on with this guy? Like, why are we not hearing more about the way he's playing? Because he is really good. Now, it didn't help that Michigan didn't have good quarterback play. That kind of also helps you be a better cover corner when the quarterbacks are not great. But I think Jahdae Barron makes sense for the Raiders, and is a player that is, I think, worthy of going somewhere within the top 8, 9 picks of this draft.
He was my favorite corner when I was watching them, Tony. I do have in my mock, I have Will going above him. I just think it's because Will's just a safer pick, a little bit more technically ready to go right now. But I think that this guy, Barron, he's got all the skills, man, that you want outside at corner, and in a class that I've noticed is really undersized at corner. So it's kind of hard to find someone that's even like 6 feet tall. I think Barron's 6 feet tall, but he's over 200 pounds. A lot of these guys are small little dudes, and they're gonna have a hard time playing press coverage outside, especially maybe slot corners. So I like that pick. I think Will Johnson and Barron are the 2 top corners in this class.
The problem I've been hearing a lot with Barron is that he is like 5'11" and on 3/4 or whatever. So he's under 6 feet, just barely. And then he has shorter arms, but he runs so fast and he's so smart. Like, he had a really good 40 time, but then you also see him play that way. He tackles well.
Great instincts.
I just think that he's gonna be somebody that's you're gonna be able to move around. And if like Pete's last draft there, I think they took Devin Witherspoon, right? There was a player they wanted that got picked right before them, and the Seahawks were mad about that, I remember. But that was the Lions wanted Devin Witherspoon or whatever it was, and the Seahawks took him the pick before. So we've seen Brian Branch should have went much higher, and he's a slower player than Barron is. Cooper DeJean. We've just seen these players coming into the NFL that ability to have flexibility of somebody who can play the nickel, who can match up on slots, the tight ends, or can also give you the coverage snaps outside. Like Tarheeb Still was for the Chargers last year. Was able to go in and play in the slot if he needed to, but it was also able to play outside. Like, you need to have that versatility. And I just think he's a really good player going to a team that I really don't like.
Yeah, we may see some reaches at corner this year. Just heads up, everybody. I think it could happen. I think we could see some guys shock people either early second round, late first round. You go, who the hell even is that? But anyways, let's have some of that happening. Yeah, you have some of that too. So we both probably have it. But let's do some rapid fire, Tony, because we're running out of time here. Appreciate everyone for tuning into this, by the way. We're at pick 7 here. The New York Jets are on the clock. I have them going with the tight end, Tyler Warren. I'm not trolling this time, which I think is a slam dunk pick for the Jets, where they're at right now and what they're going to do this season and going forward in the long term. So I got Tyler Warren at 7 to the Jets. What do you got, Tony?
Yeah, I definitely think it makes sense from like a football standpoint. I wouldn't do that. They need too many other things.
They need a lot, that's for sure. They need a lot.
My number 7 this is where Mason Graham goes for me. I think putting him next to Quinnen Williams, now all of a sudden you have you have a defensive line that's going to allow him to get pressure with just 4 or 5. Because if Jermaine Johnson can come back healthy, Will McDonald, Quinnen Williams, Mason Graham, that front 4 that you can put out there on passing situations is going to be really great. Mason Graham also very good against the run. So I think that's a great pick for the Jets. Build that defense up. Allow them to be able to have their playmakers make plays in the secondary. But we'll see. It'll be
that makes
interesting.
sense. Aaron Glenn getting them in there too, and just like, what do I know is that we can make really good right away. It's going to be.
And he already he got to see the dedication of these guys that come from Michigan with Aiden Hutchinson, like the kind of program that these guys are coming from. The work ethic, the dedication, all ball, no nonsense guys. I'm going to do my pick 8 ahead of yours. This is where the Giants traded back to.
Okay.
Armand Membu, the tackle for the Giants, getting a guy that can play opposite of Andrew Thomas, and now you have 2 tackles out there to give time for Russell Wilson to dance around and throw some moon balls out there to Malik Neighbors. So like the Giants trading back, getting some picks, getting a right tackle for the offensive line.
You know what's funny, Tony? Is that I have them also drafting Medbu, but 2 picks back. I had them trading with the Bears to 10 instead of. So we have the same pick for the Giants. Trade back, everything. I think this guy a nasty downhill blocker. And the thing that I wrote down in all caps, he doesn't block through the first whistle, Tony. He blocks through the second whistle. That's when he stops blocking, that second one. So he stops blocking on the warning that you're about to get a flag. Anyways, at 8, I have the Carolina Panthers on here. And since they can't convince any free agent wide receivers to come, since they can't trade for a freaking wide receiver, I have them taking Ted McMillan and helping out Bryce Young. But it also makes the point even further to me that Bryce Young is F, that they can't get anyone to come and team up with him. Like, wouldn't you think that somebody in this league would want to be a wide receiver 1 for a team and make $25 million with Bryce Young down the field? It's going to be McMillan or Leggett now. So that's who I got at 8.
I think that's another good fit right there. Canales was also with the Bucs and saw Mike Evans, that ability, what that player can do for your quarterback. I think that. Oh,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say I think it's a good fit. I think they hit on Jalen Coker last year. And Xavier Leggett coming into year 2 can be a little bit better. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Sanders, the tight end they drafted from Texas last year, how that injury heals up. But I like a lot of things about the Panthers and the direction they're headed. I just would go. I think they need a defensive playmaker on that defensive line. They need somebody that is just going to go and wreck everything.
I think whoever they take in the top 3 at QB next year, Tony, is going to be having a team with him. He's going to have a team. I'll tell you that much. But anyways, I can get us to 10 since I already spoiled my 10th with the Giants trading back for the tackle, Medbu. I'm going to give you 9, and then you can give me 9 and 10, Tony. But my 9th is the New Orleans Saints staying put. This is the one team that I think could ruin my plans, but I have them staying put and not going quarterback. I have them drafting cornerback Will Johnson as the first corner in my mock draft, taken off the board to replace Marshawn Lattimore, kind of as their CB1 to follow the one. And we've seen that in New Orleans so many times, but Marshawn Lattimore left at last trade deadline. They get a corner in here at the draft.
Well, you're going to need somebody smart for Brandon Staley's overcomplicated defensive scheme.
I forgot about that.
So I'm
sure it'll work, right? Brendan Staley and Kellen Moore didn't work, but if you just reverse it, it'll work. Kellen Moore, Brendan Staley.
I will not say things publicly negative about my former coach. But I like the pick. I think Will Johnson's a really good player who was in a situation last year where there was not much to play for, and it was just like you're battling injuries. And I do think Will Johnson's a really good football player, and I'm rooting for him. My number 9 is a trade up here. We got the Cowboys trading up from 12 to 9 with the Saints, and they draft Ashton Genty here. I think Jerry's just sort of like, you know what, F all of you guys. I'm making a splash, and I'm leaving this draft with a young man that I think is, my Zeke Elliott, my Emmitt Smith, these running backs that I just dig in and embrace fully, and they're a cowboy forever type situation. Even though Zeke did not finish with the Cowboys, Emmitt did not finish with the Cowboys. But yeah, you get what I'm saying there. And my number 10 is the Bears taking Walter Nolan to get the defensive side of the football for the Bears is really close, I think. And the part of the defense that I would like to see take that next step is the interior pass rush. I think Sweat's a good player on the outside. I think they have Booker, who was a late-round pick for them, that showed some promise as a pass rusher. And then they took a guy a few years ago. I think he's still on the roster. I didn't dig this deep into it. Dominique Robinson, who also provides a little bit of pressure on the edge. But if they can get a guy who causes problems in the interior, sort of have their version of the Jalen Carter, I think that can elevate the defense to the next level, cause a few more turnovers, a few more sort of 3-and-out type situations to get the ball back to that offense. I like Walter Nolan to the Bears at 10.
Yeah, that's a good pick, Tony. I think he's definitely going to be a first rounder for sure, at very minimum. Not a lot of people are talking about him like they are the Michigan interior guys, but that Nolan kid, when I put him on, it's just like watching a zombie. It can't be stopped. He's just like a zombie. He's just falling forward. No one can stop his momentum. Just keeps going forward. He just doesn't stop. There. So it'll be interesting to see which holes he's clogging in the NFL. All right, next pick. We're at 11, right? This is where the Raiders would have been, or the 49ers would have been. But in my mock draft, I had the 49ers trading up with the Raiders trading back to select quarterback Shedeur Sanders. And here you go, Raiders fans. All that talk, all offseason. It's crazy, Tony, because all the rumors, all the Brady connections, going and working out with Geno Smith and who's their receiver again? Jacoby Myers and these guys. And it's like all of this smoke. All the Raiders fans basically told me it's Shedeur Sanders. No one else. All this time, Tony, until we get a week before the draft. And now they're calling me an idiot for saying it's Shedeur Sanders. Now they don't want him anymore. Now they think they can get him in the second round. And they might be onto something. What I think might be happening with all this talk of Shedeur being so confident, he wants to go to the Raiders. Raiders possibly want him. Brady loves him. All this stuff is that maybe the Raiders know that teams aren't as interested in Shedeur Sanders as the hype is on the Sanders kid. I feel like maybe the Steelers and the Raiders might be the only teams really truly interested in drafting him in the first round. So the Raiders think they're comfortable enough to get some extra picks for them to draft some more defensive pieces for their secondary, maybe another wide receiver, some other guys Pete Carroll's going to need. Trade back with the Niners, who are being risky and trying to get some more stars in here to replace guys like Deebo Samuel and go get Travis Hunter. And you still get the quarterback to develop behind Geno Smith for the next year or two until it's time. And that's my comp for Shedeur Sanders. It's like Geno Smith with a nice watch. So perfect. Works out great for the Raiders here.
I'm not going to get into comps. I think that I think that this would be a good pick for the Raiders because he's not going to have to play at least in year one. But it's one of those situations where you have a 73-year-old coach. I just don't think you're using your first pick under this new we're not trying to build this way. That's why I've never really understood all of the hype. I thought it was more.
I think your pick is much more realistic. I think your point on D tackle and your point on corner, I think both those are good at 6.
The way that Pete Carroll wants to play football is not one of I
was pretty locked in. They were going to take Christian Gonzalez last year. I was convinced.
I just think that they want to be tough. And to me, that's Ashton Genty or that's Mason Graham. That is just we're going to be a physical football team. I got about 20 minutes.
Yeah, let's just buzz through this. You got the 49ers here, right?
Yes, I got the 49ers here at 11. How about I give you 11 through 15? You tell me if you want to talk about one of them more.
Okay.
I got the Niners taking Mike Green to go opposite of Bosa there. They need a lot of help on their D-line and their O-line. I could have went either direction. Saints in the trade back, I got them going Jalen Walker, linebacker, edge. I think that this guy is a really good football player, and they could use him at either one of those spots there. The Dolphins at 13, getting Kelvin Banks Jr., can play guard, can play tackle. They need to keep Tua upright to have any sort of a chance. Like, they need to invest in this offensive line, especially with the retirement of Armstead. Colts, this one seems pretty chalky. Tyler Warren, I think he helps out in the run game, can, pretty tough target to overthrow, big 6'6" tight end. Like, let's get some help there for Danny Dimes or Anthony Richardson. In 15, I have the Texans trading up from deep in the draft. This is going to cost them a little bit, but I do think that they need to address tackle, and they come up and get Josh Simmons.
Where was that at? Where the Cardinals are at 16?
15, the Falcons.
15. Falcons trade back then. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Texans come up to get their tackle. That makes sense. They just lost Tunzel, trying to replace immediately, get someone in there to protect CJ. I like it, Tony. I'll fire mine off here. I'm at 12, right, with the Cowboys. I had the Dallas Cowboys sitting there. I think the Cowboys are either on the way out this year, or maybe they, next year, or maybe at the trade deadline. They're out of the Trevon Diggs market. I think they're going to be taking corner at 12. I've got Barron ended up in Dallas, Tony. I think that would be a great fit for him, putting there with Micah Parsons. Those two guys have similar mentalities from what I've seen when it comes to attacking offenses, so I think that would be a lot of fun. I have Kenneth Grant to the Dolphins, trying to replace what they had with Christian Wilkins here a couple years ago. Kenneth Grant was alongside Mason Graham, I believe, in Michigan, right? These guys both just mammoth, freaking crazy, just keep falling forward, like I was saying, was I saw from the D tackles. At 13, Dolphins, Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. 14, I have the Colts going guard. They're having some rotation on their O-line. He's a guard / tackle, getting some buzz. The North Dakota State University, Gray Zabel. I had never heard of this guy until I started really looking into it more, but you could tell that this guy's versatile and huge. Massive. Yeah. So I think that teams are going to be attracted to the fact that he could play both, and he fits at both, really.
He took center snaps too at the Senior Bowl, and a lot of teams like him for center too. Like, he's
crazy.
He's definitely, I think, interior. I think he's more center guard than he is guard tackle.
Well, congrats to the Colts. Congrats to Jonathan Taylor and his 2,000-yard season upcoming. And then at 15, I had the Falcons staying put and drafting one of my sneaky guys. One of the guys that I like a lot in this draft that I think might be really good. A guy that my comp for he's even bigger and faster and stronger, Melvin Ingram. I got edge. Shamar Stewart going to the Falcons at 15 and going into that defense and helping them out a little bit, Tony.
Yeah, I got Stewart coming up here in a couple picks too. I think the one thing that scares people about Stewart is the lack of production and finishing, but I just think if you get him into the right defense, and
he definitely needs some coaching.
Yeah, he can. I think there's a lot of room to grow.
Monstrous guy with a lot of athletics, man. He stands out when you watch him play football.
Yeah, he's one of those players where he's like, if he's on the board for the Chargers at 22, I'm
pretty excited.
In full support. I don't care
that inside too. He can play inside and outside for us. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think even if he's causing problems, and we need Tooley to come in and be the guy who gets 14 sacks because Shamar Stewart is demanding double teams because he's just that big and athletic and causing problems.
Well, Tommy, there's another 3 that you'd probably want for 16, 17, 18, right here before the Chargers are coming up at 22. I got at 16 the Cardinals taking the Oregon D tackle, Derek Harmon, and I have them picking him over Nolan. So it could be either one of those guys at that spot. That's who I was deciding between. From what I watched, I didn't watch it in depth. I liked Derek Harmon's pass rushing ability a little bit more, but then again, it's hit or miss with D tackle, and I didn't watch it as closely as I do other years. And then at 17, I had the Bengals. This is a little bit of a spoiler. Drafting like the outside linebacker, edge hybrid, Georgia dog, Jalen Walker. And then I have at 18, the Seattle Seahawks going D tackle and getting Nolan. So I have it Cardinals 16, Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Bengals, D-line as well, with Jalen Walker on the outside. And then the Seattle Seahawks taking Nolan, the defensive tackle, at 18. But who do you got for those three?
Interior with Byron Murphy, Walter Nolan, and then Leonard Williams. That'd be
a bit much, huh?
Boye Mafe, that would be.
I was thinking about, you know what I was thinking about here? I was thinking about the safety. How do you say his last name? Emmanuel?
Emamwari.
Yeah, and then Maury. I was thinking about drafting him here. I have him in the first round, but a little later. But I was thinking maybe the Seahawks try and get this big safety in here, try and replicate a little bit, but they just have so many DBs already.
Yeah, so for me, I think that we'll get to my Seahawks.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, it's right now, right?
Yeah, it is. So 16, I have the Cardinals here taking Will Johnson, corner for Gannon to be able to maybe try and play a little more man coverage. Bengals at 17, getting the edge from Texas A&M, Shamar Stewart. Seahawks drafting Gray Zabel because they do need help on the interior part of their line. I have the Rams at 19 with a trade up with the Bucks, who also are a little short on picks this year. So maybe they want to move back, but the Rams come up and get Colston Loveland. They wanted to move up and get Brock Bowers last year. This year they go and get that other. He'd fill more of him, Nakua and Cup, and then you have Adams on the outside. Now all of a sudden there's more space open for Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, and the offense is just can really start to cook.
It's a good spot for me to say, Tony. At 19,
yeah,
I also have a team trading up for Colston Loveland. Also a team from Los Angeles. That's crazy. We almost had the same mock drafts, Tony. We have a lot of things that line up here. But I had the Chargers coming up from 22 and beating the Rams in a little bit of a bidding war and getting Colston Loveland here instead at 19. Now, I don't know what the Bucks would need exactly for the Chargers to win this bidding war, but I feel like the Chargers have 3 or 4 sneaky players that they could just throw in here, Just be this is just take this extra guy with the deal to sweeten it more than the Rams. You think if Colston Loveland gets within 3 picks of Harbaugh, he isn't on his knees basically sucking his GM's dick? Please, man, please.
I don't think that he goes to the extremes for that, but I will say that I do think that a trade up is more likely than a trade back for the Chargers this year. Or if any of those guys, if Warren drops further than I have him here, or because the Colts have quite a few needs that they might be targeting, like a Jihad Campbell linebacker or interior offensive line for them. They have some issues there. It might not be Warren. But if Warren, Genty, Loveland, McMillan, any of these guys start to fall into that 17 to 19 range, I think they could be looking to jump the Broncos in that scenario to get to, anywhere from the Bengals to the Broncos selections there.
Fuck you, Sean Payton. I hope our sponsor, Fifth Down, doesn't get mad at us, but fuck you, Sean Payton. Speaking of Sean Payton, he's going to fuck me back. But at 20, I have the Broncos and Emeka Ibuka just perfectly falling to them. And I think the Broncos are actually in a good spot. I'm kind of jealous that the Broncos here, not necessarily that they're in a good spot, is that they're in a better place roster-wise than the Chargers. But there's going to be a lot of talent at 20. And I feel like they truly can just take best player available. They don't have any crazy, glaring needs where you have to take this guy. Ibuka, you get him in there under Sutton's tutelage. Sutton's going to get phased out over the next couple years. Bo Nix has his number 1 wide receiver there, ready to go.
Yeah, so I also gave them a wide receiver in this spot, but I went Matthew Golden.
Okay.
I wanted to.
Do you think Golden's better than Ibuka? Because I see the debate between these two guys a lot. So
I personally, my second favorite wide receiver is Luther Burden.
Okay. You like those guys though, Tony?
Yeah. So the thing
with
me,
model of consistency, right? These guys are just going to be there for you every time in the right spot. Not necessarily I think
Luther Burden is a dynamic wide receiver who just got in a terrible quarterback situation. The year before, in 23, I was talking the 24 draft last year. Somebody was saying like, "Oh, Luther Burden, he's top 10 pick or whatever," and then he goes back to Missouri, and it's like, well, the offense was bad, and he just didn't get the same chance to be the same type of player for whatever reason. It's like, well, I don't think that the player we saw in 23, I don't think he just got worse in the one season for whatever reason. So like, I don't know. I have Burden going later. I went with Matthew Golden to the Broncos because I think that his ability to work within the offense is going to fit more what Sean Payton would like him to do, right? The route running, Matthew Golden's always in the right spot. And it wasn't like crazy playmaker, but if Sean Payton is very meticulous in what he wants offensively. And I just think that's more Matthew Golden than Luther Burden. Emeka Egbuka also fits that. I didn't put Egbuka in the top part of in my first round of my mock.
Okay.
I will go from 21 to 25. Perfect. Steelers, Kenneth Grant, 21. This is the Cam Hayward replacement here. This would mean Aaron Rodgers is like, yeah, I'll play football this year. Chargers take one of my favorite players in this draft, Derek Harmon. I just think he's going to be a sensational player in the NFL, and I'd be really excited about that. I'd also be excited if the Chargers took Donovan Ezraku, but I have him going to the Packers at 23. The Chiefs trade up to 24 to get Josh Connerly Jr., a guy that will be the eventual tackle, but I think they can play him at guard this first year. And then move him out to tackle afterwards. And then the Falcons, and their trade, when they traded back here, they end up with edge from Georgia, Mykel Williams.
Okay, there you go. All right, I'm going to fire mine too, Tony, so we can get out of here. But 21, Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know if this is going to happen. Me personally, in any other year, I don't think Jackson Dart's a second-round pick. But I have him going to the Steelers at 21. Who don't get Shedeur Sanders, don't have any way of getting up there for Ward, kind of in no man's land in the quarterback situation. I do truly think the Steelers are fine with running it with Mason Rudolph. I do. So I'm not super confident in this pick, but it's interesting. Then here I had the Chargers trading up at 22 to go and get the Michigan tight end Loveland. So I have the Bucks on the clock here, and I have them starting off a little bit of a reach fest here for these corners. I think these guys mostly would go at the end of the first round and the second round in most drafts. But because of the cornerback position this year, and just because of a need to guard receivers across the NFL growing every single year, I have the Bucks starting it off at 22, reaching on cornerback Trey Amos. And then I have the Packers following it up. Maybe not be as much of a reach, but I'm not necessarily confident in him being a first rounder, or I wouldn't. I do like his athletics, his skills, everything that he can be. That's the guy out of DBU, Azare Thomas. You've seen him. I think he's number 8.
Zaire Thomas. Yeah, he's in my first round.
Okay, cool. And then I had another guy that I didn't know was going to make your first round, Tony. Minnesota Vikings at 24, taking Takario Davis out of Arizona, 6'4", 195, corner who's not been mocked, I don't think, in anyone's first round that I saw. And then at 25, the Texans are here. Remember, you had them trading all the way up for a tackle, Tony? Mm-hmm. Josh Simmons is still on my board at 25. So maybe call it unrealistic. I got the Texans basically drafting the same player at 25 that you have them trading up for.
Yeah, so here's the thing, is every mock drafter devalues tight ends. I watch all these mock drafts and all this stuff, and then every year you go back and you look at it, and it's like there's a minimum of 5 tackles, usually 8, and in this draft where like Ramczyk just retired for Armstead retired. Trent Williams is like on a year-to-year situation.
You got a bunch of guys at line spinning the toilet right now. There's a lot. There's a lot of all pros that are done.
Need tackle, and it's like you can't just sit put and hope that these guys are going to be there. And I think that there are probably 5 to 7 tackles, and you historically need to get these guys in the first round. So you cannot sit around and wait and just think that they're going to fall to you because that's just the way that you saw a bunch of mock drafts.
I think this is my third tackle, depending on what you count the North Dakota State guy. This is my third tackle only in the first round.
So Yes, I do. I think by
You
that,
have
I think I
four?
have four.
Five?
I think I have 4 tackles already
Okay.
off the board, or 5 tackles already off the board. And Ariante Ursary was a guy that I considered putting to the Eagles as sort of their Lane Johnson replacement. Play him, see if he can get on the field as guard maybe in year 1. If not, but I didn't do that. Let's go
All right, Tony,
to.
I got you. I'll get us ahead here a little bit further so you can think. But I got 26. I got the Rams not trading, staying put. Didn't get Loveland in your mock, but they do get Jahad Campbell, which is going to be a lot of fun in that defense that's growing young and hungry. And you had this guy to the middle of it. And then I had the Ravens going guard with Tyler Booker at 27. This guy's kind of like edge. I'm not even sure if he's the guard one or if it's the other kid. I think his name's Jackson. Between those two, I feel like maybe there's even another one that's kind of in the mix, the North Dakota State guy that I mentioned earlier in the draft. But I got Tyler Booker as one of the top guards going at the edge of round 1 to the Ravens. And I got the Lions at 28, taking the Boston College edge rusher. How fun would it be to get this guy on their team? Ezeraku?
Yep.
I mean, this guy plays like his head is going to be chopped off if he doesn't get the sack after the play. Like he plays like his life is on the line every single play. And yeah, he's undersized. That's going to be an issue. But when you watch his pass rush moves, they're as good as anybody. Like his moves, his pure spin moves, everything he does with his hands. Like I think he's going to be able to overcome the size disadvantage a little bit. We're going to have to worry about run stopping. Maybe the Lions can counter that with just being the Lions. You know what I mean? And then, we can stop there. We can stop there.
No, go ahead and finish out. I was just going to say something about Ezeraku.
No, go ahead. We'll get Token in here.
I think that he can learn to become a better run defender, but his ability to get after the quarterback would be a game changer to put out because he's going to get singles. He's not going to get any chips because Aiden's would get all those in your scenario, right? Where it's like, it's kind of the thing where like, do the Lions draft a guy like James Pierce from Tennessee who might not be very good at stopping the run, but he's just their designated sort of Bryce Huff style. You're coming out here on 3rd down and you're just going to go heat up the QB and you're going to steal some sacks from Hutchinson and Aleem McNeil when he's back from injury. So I like that a lot. Why don't you finish out yours and then I will give mine.
Yeah, I'll go.
We'll get out.
I'll go all the way to the end here. I have the Commanders taking a chance on edge rusher James Pierce. I think this guy has like crazy potential. He's obviously got some huge red flags as a pass rusher. He rushes standing straight up for 1. For 2, he doesn't really use his hands very much. He just tries to blow by everybody with his speed. But if someone can coach this guy, he has all of the talent to be like an impact. I think of Alden Smith when I watch him. I'm like, this guy could be something, but Alden Smith even didn't really come to fruition fully. I have the Bills getting lucky here, and they get the safety, who I think is the best safety in this class. Nick, I can't say his last name, Tony. Say it.
Emanwari. That's how I've been saying it.
This is where I thought maybe you could see like a Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't think the Bengals would trade Hendrickson to the Bills, but a Trey Hendrickson trade, something around here. I think that Nick will bring just some more athleticism, more size to the Bills secondary and more flexibility with all the DBs that they already have there. I have the Chiefs continuing to just give Patrick Mahomes cheap weapons and them taking Matthew Golden at 31. Which wouldn't be great to pair him with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice next year. And then at 32, this is where it happens, Tony. To end the draft, Mike drop. Where have the Eagles been? No one's been listening to the Eagles. The Eagles trade out of the first round. Everyone's like, wow, the Eagles traded back. Never expected this. Then you find out that they got Trey Hendrickson in the deal. And the Bengals are on the clock. And the Bengals take the other safety, Malachi Starks, who I think is going to be a great safety in the NFL as well. So the Bengals come in at 32, trade Trey Hendrickson in probably a multi-pick deal. Not just this pick, but the Bills cash in and add him to their little rotation they got now going with Bosa and Rousseau and all these guys in Buffalo rushing the passer.
Wait, no, that was the Eagles.
Yeah, well, no. I have the Eagles trading for I have the Eagles trading for Trey Hendrickson to replace Josh Sweat. Not the Bills. That was a complete brain fart.
Okay. All right. I follow you there. So here are mine. I like a lot of that. It would be very interesting. 26, I have the Bucks in their trade back. They get Jihad Campbell. This allows
that makes sense.
A future Hall of Famer in my book, Levante David, to eventually ride off into the sunset after this season. 27, Azareye'h Thomas to the Ravens. Physical corner. They have the speed guy in Wiggins from last year's draft. Now you pair him with Azareye'h Thomas, and Marlon Humphrey still is out there balling, playing the nickel a lot.
He feels like a Raven too. When you get that's a good feel.
It does.
Yeah.
Lions 28. Donovan Jackson, guard, offensive line. Continue to build that up. 29, trading back into the first are the Giants and Commanders. Didn't love this fit here, but maybe they do my other trade up in the end here. Jalen Milroe to the Giants, which means I still haven't even taken Shedeur off the board yet. Jalen Milroe is my second QB off the board. Bills, DB Maxwell Harrison, speedy guy, opportunity to take the ball away. Little maybe undersized, but you have this Sean McDermott will figure it out type situation. 31 Browns trade back in because they're not going to wait around to see if anybody trades up. They get Shedeur. So in my draft, the Browns still get Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders now in Cleveland. 32 Eagles finish a draft. Luther Burden. Getting more production out of the slot. Now they, would be able to have. I considered maybe Mason Taylor here if they are going to trade, but I just think they're going to go wide receiver or defensive line, or wide receiver, defense line, O-line for the Eagles. But Luther Burden as the eventual sort of A.J. Brown is gone. Hey, we're upset. We're trading you. It's going to happen at some point. A.J. Brown will be a Patriot within the next 18 to 24 months.
I mean, that's a good spot for him. That would be a lot of fun, Go back with Mr. Vrabel and Drake May. This is why you're the reoccurring co-host of this show, Tony, because you're the only person I can find that could get more creative than Ashton Genty to the Bears and Travis Hunter to the 49ers. Both Sanders and Hunter to the Browns.
Milroe as QB2 in this draft.
Yeah, that too. But of all teams, you could have lined up this Hunter and Sanders pairing. You picked the Browns.
I don't know. It's going to be fun. I'm excited about the draft. I can't wait to see.
Is it going to be fun? Yeah, are you sure it's going to be fun?
It's going to be fun. I look forward to hanging out with my friends and watching the draft.
It's going to be a lot of fun this week. We are going to be live on the NFLMike TikTok channel, probably the Joe Morley Sports Instagram channel as well. But I don't care how late I have to stay up. After the first round of the draft, we're recording our reactions. Me and Tony and Joe will be together, and we'll be posting them. So turn on notifications, subscribe to the channel, make sure you guys are here. Thank you for tuning in to our NFL Draft Deep Dive. If you're watching the full episode, if you're watching any of the clipped up versions, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel before you forget. What will happen at the NFL Draft, by the way, Tony, before I give the closing line? Thank you for coming on. Do you want to plug all of your social medias so everyone goes and follows you?
Yeah, it's at NFLMike.
Yeah, there you go. It was an inside joke because Tony doesn't like social media. Anyways, what will happen at the NFL Draft here in a couple days? I guess sooner rather than later, the ball definitely won't lie.
Bill Flames, I'm with Mike on the mic. With something brand new, one time for your mind. He gave you fair warning. Now it's time to smack him in the mouth with that raw sports talk from the town. Sweet chin music to your favorite sportscaster.